shoulders. The hump caused by the injury restricted his arms' movements.
You will not be able to battle a taller man.
I will die before retreating, my lord,
said Uttanka.
I have no use for soldiers who die,
said Parvateshwar.
I need soldiers who will kill and live. Why don't you stick to dancing?
Are you saying that dancers cannot be warriors?
Butted in Anandmai. Parvateshwar glared. The Nilkant was a celebrated dancer and a fearsome warrior. He turned around, picked up 2 wooden swords and shields, throwing one pair to Uttanka. He held up his sword, adjusted his shield, and gestured to the Magadhan to get into position.
You're going to fight him?
Asked a shocked Anandmai. She knew Uttanka would be no match for Parvateshwar.
What is wrong with you? Why can't he just come along?
Anandmai stopped as Bhagirath touched her arm. He pulled her back. Purvaka and Drapaku too stepped back.
You still have a choice, soldier,
said Parvateshwar.
Walk away.
I'd rather be carried out, my lord,
said Uttanka. Parvateshwar narrowed his eyes. He liked the man's spirit, but he had to test his ability now. For spirit without ability usually led to a gruesome death on the battlefield. Parvateshwar moved slowly, waiting for Uttanka to charge. But the man kept still. Parvateshwar realized the Magadhan was being defensive. Uttanka's shoulder injury prevented a high-arm assault that would be required to attack a taller man like Parvateshwar. The general charged. It was an unorthodox assault. He struck only from above, keeping his shield up front at medium height. Uttanka had to keep stepping back, holding his shield high with his left hand to defend against the powerful blows. If he could have raised his right arm high, he would have struck Parvateshwar's exposed head and shoulder. But he couldn't, so he kept jabbing back at chest height. Parvateshwar easily parried the blows with his shield. Slowly but surely, Parvateshwar kept pushing Uttanka back towards the wall. It was a matter of time before he would have no place to retreat. Anandmai, while happy at what she thought was the Meluhan general's jealousy, was also worried about Uttanka.
Why can't he show some compassion?
Bhagirath turned to his sister.
Parvateshwar is doing the right thing. An enemy will not show sympathy during a battle.
Just then, Uttanka's back hit the wall. His shield bobbed. Parvateshwar immediately swung from the right and hit Uttanka hard on his chest.
That would have been a death blow with a real sword,
whispered Parvateshwar. Uttanka nodded. He did not try to rub his obviously hurting chest. Parvateshwar walked calmly back to the center of the room and called out loudly.
Once more!
Uttanka trudged back into position. Parvateshwar attacked once more, again with the same result. Seeing Uttanka in pain, Anandmai hissed. She was about to step forward, but Bhagirath held her back. He too was worried, but he knew he couldn't step in. That would be an insult to the general and the foolishly brave soldier trying to combat him.
Why did you bring that man here?
Asked Bhagirath.
Uttanka dances beautifully. I thought it would be fun to have him along on the voyage to Branga.
Bhagirath turned towards his sister with narrowed eyes.
That is not the whole truth. I know what you're doing, and it's not fair.
Everything's fair in love and war, Bhagirath. But I certainly don't want Uttanka getting hurt.
Then you shouldn't have brought him here.
Parvateshwar was back in the center.
Again?
Uttanka lumbered back. He was evidently in pain, his face revealing his increasing rage and frustration. Parvateshwar, on the other hand, was worried. He was afraid that he would end up breaking the soldiers' ribs if they had just one more joust. But he had to stop this foolhardiness. If this was a real battle, Uttanka would have already been killed twice over. He charged at Uttanka again. To his surprise, Uttanka stepped to the side, letting Parvateshwar move forward with his momentum. Then Uttanka turned and charged as an aggressor. He swung to the left, letting his shield come down, leaving his flank open. Parvateshwar pushed his sword forward. Uttanka turned right to avoid the blow, and in the same motion rolled his right arm in a swing, letting the momentum carry the sword higher than his injured shoulder would normally have allowed. He struck Parvateshwar on his neck. A kill strike, if it had been a real blade and not a practice weapon. Parvateshwar stood stunned. How had Uttanka managed to do that? Uttanka himself looked shocked. He had never managed to strike that high after his injury. Never. Parvateshwar's face broke into a slight smile. Uttanka had given up being defensive, turned into an aggressor, and won.
Give up your attachment to your shield,
said Parvateshwar.
When you attack hard, you do have the ability to kill.
Uttanka, still panting hard, smiled slowly.
Welcome to the Meluhan army, brave soldier.
Uttanka immediately dropped his sword and fell at Parvateshwar's feet, his eyes moist. Parvateshwar pulled Uttanka up.
You are a Meluhan soldier now, and my soldiers don't cry. Conduct yourself in the manner befitting a Meluhan military man.
Bhagirath sighed in relief and turned towards Anandmai.
You were lucky this time.
Anandmai nodded slowly, but her heart was already racing a few steps ahead. What really impressed Parvateshwar was military prowess. Anandmai developed a new plan to snare her general.
Shiva is right, father,
said Sati.
You can't give away so much somras. Meluha needs it.
It had been 10 days since Kartik's birth. Emperor Dilipa and his entourage had left for Ayodhya. Shiva had gone to the banks of the Ganga to supervise the shipbuilding. Daksha and Virani were sitting in Sati's private chambers as the proud mother gently rocked Kartik's crib. Virani looked at Daksha, but did not say anything.
Let Meluha be my concern, my child,
said Daksha.
You worry your pretty little head only with Kartik.
Sati hated being spoken to in such a patronizing manner.
Father, of course I'm thinking about Kartik. I am his mother. But I cannot forget our duties to Meluha.
My child,
smiled Daksha.
Meluha is safe. Safer than it has ever been. I don't think you need to doubt my abilities to care for my people.
Father, I am not doubting your abilities or your commitment. All I'm saying is that I feel it's wrong for Kartik to receive such a large share of somras that rightly belongs to the people of Meluha. I am sure there's an immense shortage of the somras after the destruction of Mount Mandar. Why give so much to my son? Just because he's the emperor's grandson? This is against Lord Ram's rules.
Daksha laughed out loud.
My darling daughter, nowhere do Lord Ram's rules say that an emperor cannot give somras powder to his grandchild.
Of course the exact words will not be there, father,
argued Sati, irritated.
And it's not about the exact words. It is the principles that Lord Ram had set up. An emperor must always put his people above his family. We are not following that principle.
What do you mean we are not following that principle? Asked Daksha, sounding angry.
Are you calling me a lawbreaker?
Father, please keep your voice low. Kartik will wake up. And if you're favoring Kartik over the common Meluhans, then yes, you are breaking Lord Ram's laws.
Virani cringed. Ignoring Virani's plea, Daksha ranted.
I am not breaking Lord Ram's laws.
Yes, you are,
said Sati.
Are you saying you have enough somras for the Suryavanshis? That Kartik is not benefiting at the cost of another less fortunate Meluhan? Unless you promise me that this somras powder will just lie waste. I will not let anyone give it to Kartik.
You will hurt your own son?
Asked Daksha, turning briefly to glance at his sleeping grandson before glaring at Sati.
Kartik is my son. He will not like to benefit at the cost of others, because I will teach him what Raj Dharma is.
His own daughter accusing him of not following his royal duties? Daksha exploded.
I have taken care of my Raj Dharma.
Karthik woke up crying. Sati rose and picked up Karthik, who calmed down at the familiar smell of his mother. Sati turned and glared at her father.
I didn't want to tell you this,
said Daksha.
but since you are bent on hurting Karthik's interests, listen. Another Somras manufacturing facility exists. Maharshi Bhrigu ordered me to build it secretly many years ago. It was a backup for Mount Mandar. We kept it secret because there are traitors in our midst.
Sati stared at her father in shock. Virani was holding her head.
So, my beloved child,
said a sarcastic Daksha,
I have followed my Raj Dharma. There is enough Somras for all of Meluha for centuries to come. Now, give the drink of the gods to Karthik every day till he turns 18. He will go down in history as the greatest man ever.
Sati didn't say anything. She still appeared shocked by the news of the secret Somras manufacturing facility. There were hundreds of questions running through her head.
Did you hear me?
Asked Daksha.
You will give the Somras to Karthik every day. Every day.
Sati nodded. Shiva was standing on the dried river bed, where the Brangas had made their temporary workshop. 5 ships were being constructed. Shiva, who had seen some massive ships being built at Karchapa, the Meluhan seaport, was amazed at the radically different design of the Branga ships. So was Parvateshwar. They walked together around the great wooden stands on which the ships rested. The size and structure of the ships was vastly superior to the standard Swadweepan vessels. They were almost the size of Meluhan crafts, but the difference was at the bottom of the hull. Below the waterline, the hull had been thinned out to a ridiculously narrow range, and it went down flat for a good 2 or 3 meters. What is the point of this, Parvateshwar? Asked Shiva.
I don't know, my lord,
said Parvateshwar.
It is the strangest design I have ever seen.
You think it helps the ship cut through the water faster?
I'm not sure. But shouldn't this extension make the ship less stable?
The coating on it should make it heavy, said Shiva, as he touched the metal plates that had been hammered onto the wood. This is that strange new metal your people had discovered recently?
Yes, my lord. It does look like iron.
Then its heaviness probably increases stability.
But the heaviness would also slow the ship down.
That's true.
I wonder what these strange grooves are for,
asked Parvateshwar, running his hand on a deep furrow which ran all along the metal plates on the hull extension. Or these hooks, for that matter, said Shiva, as he looked up at the many large hooks on the hull, around 2 meters above the furrow. Just then, Devadas, accompanied by Ayurvati, joined them. Working in the sun at double shifts was tiring out the Brangas. Devadas had requested Shiva if Ayurvati could help. Ayurvati was only too delighted to have a team prepare some Ayurvedic energy infusions for the Brangas. My lord, said Devadas, smiling, Lady Ayurvati is a genius. Drinking her medicines is like getting a shot of pure energy. My workers' efforts have doubled over the last few days. An embarrassed Ayurvati turned red.
No, it's nothing.
What is it with you, Suryavanshis? Asked Devadas. Why can't you take a compliment properly? Shiva and Ayurvati laughed out loud. Parvateshwar did not find it funny.
Lord Ram said humility is the mark of a great person. If we forget our humility, we insult Lord Ram.
Parvateshwar, I don't think Devadas was suggesting anything that would hurt Lord Ram,
said Ayurvati.
We all respect the Lord. I think Devadas was only suggesting that we enjoy the better aspects of our life a little more uninhibitedly. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, said Shiva, changing the topic. What I'm more interested in is the strange extension at the bottom of the ship. First of all, it must have been very difficult to design. You would have had to get the weight and dimensions exactly right, or the ship will keel over. So, I must compliment your engineers.
I have no problems with accepting compliments, my lord.
Smiled Devadas.
My engineers are brilliant.
Shiva grinned. That they are. But what is the purpose of this extension? What does it do?
It opens locks, my lord.
What?
It is a key. You will see how it works when we reach the gates of Branga.
Shiva frowned.
Any ship without this can never enter Branga. It will be crushed.
The gates on the mighty Ganga?
Asked Parvateshwar.
I had thought that was a myth. I can't imagine how a gate could be built across a river of this size and flow.
Devadas smiled.
You need legendary engineers to build reality out of myth. And we have no shortage of such men in Branga.
So how does that gate work? Asked Shiva.
It will be much better if you see it, my lord,
Said Devadas.
Awesome structures like that cannot be described. They can only be seen.
Just then, a woman holding a 1-month-old baby came up. It was the Branga High Priestess, the same one who had stopped Bhagirath's attack at the Branga building. Shiva looked at the child and smiled. What a lovely baby.
That's my daughter, my lord,
said Devadas.
And this is Yashini, my wife.
Yashini bent down to touch Shiva's feet, and then placed her daughter there. Shiva immediately bent down and picked up the child. What's her name?
Devyani, my lord.
Said Yashini. Shiva smiled. She's been named after the daughter of Shukra, the teacher. Yashini nodded.
Yes, my lord.
It's a beautiful name. I'm sure she will teach the world great knowledge as she grows up, said Shiva, as he handed the baby back to Yashini.
Dreaming for our children's careers is not for us Brangas, my lord,
said Yashini.
All we can hope for is that they live to see their future.
Shiva nodded in sympathy. I will not stop till I change this, Yashini.
Thank you, my lord,
said Devadas.
I know you will succeed. We do not care for our own lives, but we have to save our children. We will be forever grateful to you when you succeed.
But Devadas,
interrupted Ayurvati.
Even the Lord is grateful to you.
Both Shiva and Devadas turned towards Ayurvati, surprised.
Why?
Asked Devadas.
Your medicine saved Karthik's life,
explained Ayurvati.
What are you talking about?
Well, many a times within the womb, the umbilical cord gets wrapped around the baby's neck. In some of these cases, the baby cannot survive the journey of birthing. It suffocates and dies. I'm not sure since I was not there, but I think that is what has happened with Princess Sati's first child as well. Karthik had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, but this time I applied your medicine on Princess Sati's belly. It somehow permeated the womb and gave Karthik the strength to survive those few crucial moments till he slipped out. Your medicine saved his life.
What medicine?
Asked Devadas.
The Naga medicine,
said Ayurvati, frowning.
I recognized the paste as soon as I smelt it. And only you could have given it, right?
But I didn't.
You didn't?
Asked the shocked Ayurvati, turning to Shiva.
Then, where did you get the medicine from, my lord?
Shiva was stunned. Like someone had cruelly destroyed one of his most precious memories.
My lord, what is it?
Asked Ayurvati. Shiva, looking furious, abruptly turned around. Nandi, Bhadra, come with me.
My lord, where are you going?
Asked Parvateshwar, but Shiva was already walking away, followed by Nandi, Veerbhadra and their platoon. Panditji! Shiva was in the Kashi Vishwanath temple. As ordered, Nandi and Veerbhadra waited outside, along with their platoon. Panditji! Where the hell is he? Then Shiva realized he didn't need to shout. All he needed to do was transmit his thoughts. Vasudevs, are any of you listening? No answer. Shiva's anger rose another notch. I know you can hear me. Will one of you have the guts to speak? Still no answer. Where did you get the Naga medicine from? Absolute silence. Explain yourself. What relationship do you and the Nagas have? How deep does this go? No, Vasudev responded. By the holy lake, answer me, or I add your name to the enemies of good. Shiva didn't hear a word. He turned towards the idol of Lord Rudra. For some strange reason, it didn't appear as fearsome as he remembered. It seemed peaceful, serene, almost like it was trying to tell Shiva something. Shiva turned around and screamed one last time, Vasudevs, answer me, or I assume the worst. Hearing no answer, Shiva stormed out of the temple. Chapter 9. What is your karma? What happened, Shiva? The little boy turned around to find his uncle standing behind. The boy quickly wiped his eyes, for tears were a sign of weakness in Guna men. The uncle smiled. He sat down next to Shiva and put his arm around his diminutive shoulder. They rested in silence for a while, letting the waters of the Mansarovar lake lap their feet. It was cold, but they didn't mind. What ails you, my child? Asked the uncle. Shiva looked up. He had always wondered how a fierce warrior like his uncle always sported such a calm, understanding smile. Mother told me that I shouldn't feel guilty about... The words stopped as tears choked Shiva. He could feel his brow throbbing again. About that poor woman? Asked the uncle. The boy nodded. And what do you think? I don't know what to think anymore. Yes, you do. Listen to your heart. What do you think? Shiva's little hands kept fidgeting with his tiger skin skirt. Mother thinks I couldn't have helped her, that I'm too small, too young, too powerless. I would have achieved nothing. Instead of helping her, I would have probably just got myself injured. That's probably true. But does that matter? The little boy looked up. His eyes narrowed, tears welling up. No. The uncle smiled. Think about it. If you had tried to help her, there is a chance she would still have suffered. But there is also a chance, however small, that she may have escaped. But if you didn't even try, there was no chance for her, was there? Shiva nodded. What else did your mother tell you? That the woman didn't even try to fight back. Yes, that may be true. And mother says that if the woman didn't try to fight back, why would it be wrong for me to do the same? That is an important point. The sin was being committed against her, and yet she was accepting it. They kept quiet for some time, staring at the setting sun. So, even if the woman didn't fight back, said the uncle, what do you think you should have done? Yes? I think it doesn't matter if the woman didn't fight to protect herself. No matter what, I should have fought for her. Why? Shiva looked up. Do you also think I should have been pragmatic? That it wasn't wrong to run away? What I think doesn't matter. I want to hear your interpretation. Why do you think it was wrong for you to run away? Shiva looked down, fidgeting with his skirt. His brow was throbbing madly. Because it feels wrong to me, the uncle smiled. That is the answer. It feels wrong. Because what you did was against your karma. You don't have to live with the woman's karma. What she did was her choice. You have to live with your own karma. Shiva looked up. It is your karma to fight evil. It doesn't matter if the people that evil is being committed against don't fight back. It doesn't matter if the entire world chooses to look the other way. Always remember this. You don't live with the consequences of other people's karma. You live with the consequences of your own. Shiva nodded slightly. Does that hurt? Asked the uncle, pointing at the blackish-red blotch on Shiva's brow, right between his eyes. Shiva pressed it hard. The pressure provided some relief. No, but it burns. It burns a lot. Especially when you're upset? Shiva nodded.
The uncle reached into his coat and pulled out a small pouch. This is a very precious medicine. I have carried it for a long time, and I feel you are the correct person to receive it. Shiva took the pouch. Opening it, he found a reddish-brown thick paste inside. It'll make the burning go away? The uncle smiled. It'll set you on the path of your destiny. Shiva frowned, confused. Pointing to the gargantuan Himalayas extending beyond the Mansarovar, the uncle continued, My child, your destiny is much larger than these massive mountains. But to make it come true, you will have to cross these very same massive mountains. The uncle didn't feel the need to explain any more. He took some of the reddish-brown paste and applied it on Shiva's brow in a neat vertical line, up from between his eyes to his hairline. Shiva felt immediate relief as his brow cooled down. Then the uncle applied some paste around Shiva's throat. He took the remaining portion of the medicine and put it in Shiva's right palm. Then he cut his finger lightly and dropped a little bit of blood into the paste, whispering, We will never forget your command, Lord Rudra. This is the blood oath of a Vayuputra. Shiva looked at his uncle and then down at his palm, which cradled the strange reddish-brown paste mixed with his uncle's blood. Put it on the back of your mouth, said the uncle, but don't swallow it. Massage it till it gets absorbed. Shiva did that. Now you're ready. Let fate choose the time. Shiva didn't understand, but he felt the relief the medicine gave. Do you have any more of this medicine? I have given you all that I have, my child.
The Vasudevs had the Naga medicine,
asked the shocked Sati. She had intended to speak to Shiva about the disturbing conversation with her father in the morning. She was still stunned that a backup manufacturing facility for the Somras existed and that no one knew about it. But that was immediately forgotten on seeing Shiva's enraged face. I have been misled. They are probably in alliance with the Nagas. Can't you trust anyone in this country? Something in Sati told her the Vasudevs couldn't be evil. It didn't add up.
Shiva, you're probably jumping to...
Jumping to conclusions? Glared Shiva. You know what Ayurvati said? That medicine could only be made in Naga lands. We know how the Brangas got it. They are being blackmailed. What is the explanation for the Vasudevs? They needed the Nagas to build their temples. Sati kept quiet. Shiva walked up to the window and stared hard at the Vishwanath temple. For some strange reason, he could hear his inner voice repeating the same thought. Stay calm. Don't jump to conclusions. Shiva shook his head.
I'm sure the Vasudevs would have assumed that you would figure out where the medicine came from,
said Sati.
So there can only be two explanations as to why the Vasudevs gave it to you.
Shiva turned around.
Either they are stupid, or they think the safe birth of your son is so important that they are willing to risk your anger.
Shiva frowned.
From what I have gathered from you, I don't think they are stupid,
said Sati.
That leaves us with only one choice. They think that if anything happened to our son, you would be so devastated that it would harm their cause against evil.
Shiva kept quiet. The Naga lord of the people sat on his chair in his personal chambers right next to the window. He could hear the songs of the choir that paraded the streets of Panchavati at this time of the evening once a week. The queen had wanted to ban the sad songs they sang. She despised them as defeatist. But the Naga Rajya Sabha, the elected royal council, had voted against her move, allowing the songs to continue. The song triggered powerful emotions in the Naga, but he held them within.
You were my world, my God, my creator, and yet you abandoned me. I didn't seek you, you called me, and yet you abandoned me. I honored you, lived by your rules. I honored you, lived by your rules. Colored myself in your colors, and yet you abandoned me. You hurt me, you deserted me. You hurt me, you deserted me. You failed in your duties, and yet I am the monster. Tell me, Lord, what can I?
Disgusting song.
said the queen, interrupting the Naga's thoughts.
Shows our weakness and our attachments.
Mausi,
Said the Naga as he rose.
I didn't hear you come in.
How could you? These nauseating songs drown out the world, drown out any positive thought.
Vengeance is not a positive thought, Your Highness.
Smiled the Naga.
Also, the choir does sing happy songs as well.
The queen waved her hand.
I have something more important to discuss.
Yes, Mausi.
The queen took a deep breath.
Did you meet the Vasudevs?
The Naga narrowed his eyes. He was surprised that it had taken the queen so long to find out.
Yes.
Why?
Asked the queen, barely restraining her temper.
Your Highness, I believe we can use their help.
They will never support us. They may not be our enemies, but they will never be our friends.
I disagree. I think we have a common enemy. They will come to our side.
Nonsense. The Vasudevs are fanatic purveyors of an ancient legend. Some foreigner with a blue throat is not going to save this country.
But another foreigner with a bearded beard saved this country once, didn't he?
Don't compare this tribal to the great Lord Rudra. This country is probably fated for destruction. All India has given us is pain and sorrow. Why should we care?
Because whatever it may be, it is our country too.
The queen grunted angrily.
Tell me the real reason why you gave them our medicine. You know it's in short supply. We have to send the annual quota to the Brangas. I am not breaking my word. They are the only decent people in this wretched land. The only ones who don't want to kill us all.
The quota of the Brangas will not be affected, Your Highness. I have only given them my personal share.
In the holy name of Bhumi Devi, why? Have you suddenly started believing the Nilkant too?
What I believe doesn't matter, Your Highness. What matters is that the people of India believe.
The queen stared hard at the Naga.
That is not the real reason.
It is.
Don't lie to me.
The Naga kept quiet.
You did it for that vile woman,
stated the queen. The Naga was disturbed, but his voice remained calm.
No. And at least you shouldn't speak of her that way, Your Highness.
Why not?
Because besides me, you're the only one who knows the truth.
Sometimes I wish I didn't.
It's too late for that now.
The queen sniggered.
It's true. The gods don't give all abilities to one person. You truly are your own worst enemy.
Daksha was sitting on the ground. He had been shocked at the unscheduled appearance of Maharishi Bhrigu in Devagiri. The emperor of Meluha had not sought an audience with the sage. Bhrigu looked down hard at Daksha, deeply unhappy. You disobeyed a direct command, Your Highness. Daksha remained quiet, head bowed low. How did the Maharishi get to know? Only Sati, Virani and I had been in on the conversation. Is Virani spying on me? Why is everyone against me? Why me? Bhrigu stared at Daksha, reading his thoughts. The sage always knew that Daksha was weak, but the emperor had never dared disobey a direct order. Furthermore, Bhrigu didn't really give that many orders. He was concerned about only one thing, On all other matters, he let Daksha do whatever he liked. "You have been made emperor for a reason," said Bhrigu. "Please don't make me question my judgment." Daksha kept quiet, scared. Bhrigu bent down and turned Daksha's face up. "Did you also tell her the location, Your Highness?" Daksha whispered softly.
"No, my lord. I swear."
"Don't lie to me."
"I swear, my lord."
Bhrigu read Daksha's thoughts. He was satisfied. "You are not to mention this to anyone. Is that clear?" Daksha remained silent. "Your Highness," said Bhrigu, his voice louder, "is that clear?"
"Yes, my lord,"
said a scared Daksha, holding Bhrigu's feet. Shiva stood at the Assi Ghat. The sails of the 5 gleaming Branga ships had been folded in all but one of the ships. On the ship anchored closest to port, the sails had been pulled up, creating a grand sight, much to the appreciative glances of the people present. "They look good, Devadas," said Shiva. "Thank you, my lord. I can't believe that your tribe built all this in just 9 months. We Brangas can do anything, my lord." Shiva smiled. Atithigva, standing next to Shiva, spoke up.
"Vivadas, are you sure the ships will sail? This ship here has all its sails open and the winds are strong, and yet it doesn't seem to be shaking the ship at all."
Clearly, the king did not know much about sailing.
"That is a very good point, Your Highness,"
said Devadas.
"But the ship is not moving because we don't want it sailing off without us. The sails have been aligned such that they are directly against the wind. Can you see the mainsail fluttering dramatically?"
Atithigva nodded.
"That means that the sail is laughing at us since it's not catching any wind."
Shiva smiled. "Laughing?"
"That's the term we use when the sail has been set wrong and is fluttering, my lord,"
said Devadas. "Well," said Shiva, "I'll be serious then. We leave in 3 days for Branga. Make all the preparations." Sati was staring at the Ganga from her chamber window. She could see a small entourage of boats carrying King Atithigva across the river to his palace on the eastern banks.
Why does he keep going there? Why does he take only his family?
"What are you thinking, Sati?" Shiva was standing behind her. She embraced him.
I'm going to miss you.
He pulled her face up, kissed her, and smiled. "That's not what you were thinking." Sati patted him lightly on his chest.
You can read my mind as well.
"I wish I could."
I wasn't thinking anything serious. Just wondering why King Atithigva goes to the Eastern Palace so often. Even more oddly, he only takes his family there.
"Yes, even I've noticed that. I'm sure he has some good reason. There is the superstition of the eastern banks being inauspicious, right?" Sati shrugged.
Is it fixed? You're leaving in 3 days.
"Yes."
How long do you think you'll be gone?
"I don't know. Hopefully not too long."
I wish I could come.
"I know. But Karthik is simply not old enough for a voyage like this." Sati looked at Karthik sleeping on his bed. He had grown so fast that he hadn't fit in his crib anymore.
He looks more and more like you.
Shiva smiled. "It's been just 6 months, but he looks like a 2-year-old. Sati had to take Shiva's word for it. Being a Meluhan who didn't live in Maika, she had never seen a child younger than 16 years of age.
Maybe it's the blessings of the Somras,
said Sati. Possible. Ayurvati was surprised that he didn't fall sick the first time he took the Somras.
That was surprising. But maybe that's because he's a special boy.
That he is. I've never seen a baby who could walk at 6 months. Sati smiled.
He will make us proud.
I'm sure he will. Sati looked up and kissed Shiva again.
Just find a path to the Nagas and come back to me soon.
I certainly will, my love. The ships had been provisioned. They did not intend to wait at any port along the way. Speed was of the essence. Much to the mortification of Parvateshwar, a joint brigade of Suryavanshis and Chandravanshis had been created. It was difficult to carry more men in the 5 ships, but the saving grace was that the overall command remained with Drapaku. Shiva looked at the ships from the steps of the Assi Ghat. Drapaku, as the commander, was on the lead craft, accompanied by his father Purvaka. The key companions of the Nilkant were stationed on the main vessel, which would sail in the safest zone, surrounded by the other 4 boats. Parvateshwar, Bhagirath, Anandmai, Ayurvati, Nandi and Veerbhadra all stood at the balustrade of this ship. Shiva was surprised to find Uttanka too on the main ship. Anandmai must have insisted. If there is one woman who can entice Parvateshwar into breaking his vow of celibacy, it is her.
My lord,
said Atithigva, interrupting Shiva's thoughts. The king of Kashi bent down to touch the Nilkant's feet. Shiva touched Atithigva's head gently. Ayushman Bhav. With folded hands, Atithigva whispered,
I beg you to return to Kashi quickly, my lord. We are orphans without you.
You don't need me, your highness. You don't really need anyone else. Have faith in the one person that loves you the most, yourself. Shiva turned towards a moist-eyed Sati, who was holding Karthik's hand as he stood by her side, wobbling slightly due to the strong winds. Karthik pointed up at Shiva and said, Baba. Shiva smiled and picked Karthik up. Baba will be back soon, Karthik. Don't give your mother too much trouble. Karthik pulled Shiva's hair and repeated, Baba. Shiva smiled even more broadly and kissed Karthik on his forehead. Then he held Karthik to his side and stepped forward to embrace Sati. Some Suryavanshi habits were too hard to break. Sati embraced Shiva lightly, for she was embarrassed of such public displays of affection. Shiva didn't let go. Sati's love for Shiva conquered her Suryavanshi reserve. She looked up and kissed Shiva.
Come back soon.
I will. Chapter 10. The Gates of Branga. The waters were rising fast, flooding the small boat. Shiva tried desperately to control the vessel, fighting the raging river with his oars, laboring to reach his friend. Brihaspati was struggling. Suddenly, his eyes opened wide in surprise. What seemed like a rope came out of nowhere and bound itself to his legs. He started getting pulled in rapidly. Shiva, help! Please help me! Shiva was rowing hard, desperately so. Hold on! I'm coming! Suddenly a massive 3-headed snake rose from the river. Shiva noticed the rope bound Brihaspati slithering up and around him, crushing him ruthlessly. It was the serpent. No! Shiva woke up with a start. He looked around in a daze. His brow was throbbing hard, his throat intolerably cold. Everyone was asleep. He could feel the ground beneath him sway as the ship rocked gently, in tune with the Ganga waters. He walked up to the porthole of his cabin, letting the gentle breeze slow his heart rate down. He curled his fist and rested it against the ship wall. I will get him, Brihaspati. That snake will pay. It had been 2 weeks since Shiva's entourage had left Kashi. Making good time since they were sailing downriver, they had just crossed the city of Magadh.
We should be reaching Branga in another 3 weeks, my lord,
said Parvateshwar. Shiva, who was staring upriver towards Kashi, turned around with a smile. Did you speak to Devadas?
Yes.
Where is he right now?
At the masthead, my lord, trimming his sails to the prevailing wind. Obviously, he too wants to get to Branga quickly.
Shiva looked at Parvateshwar. No, I don't think so. I think he yearns to play his role in my quest and then get back to his wife and daughter. He really misses them.
As you miss Sati and Karthik, my lord.
Shiva smiled and nodded, both of them leaning against the ship rail,
looking at the tranquil Ganga. A school of dolphins emerged from the river and flew up into the air. Falling gracefully back into the waters, they jumped up once again, continuing this handsome dance in graceful symphony. Shiva loved looking at the dolphins. They always seemed happy and carefree. Carefree fish in a capricious river. Poetic, isn't it? Parvateshwar smiled.
Yes, my lord.
Speaking of carefree and capricious, where is Anandmai?
I think the princess is with Uttanka, my lord. She keeps going to the practice room with him. Perhaps they are perfecting some other dance moves.
Parvateshwar kept looking at the river. She does dance well, doesn't she? Asked Shiva.
Yes, my lord.
Exceptionally well, actually.
That would be a fair comment to make, my lord.
What do you think of Uttanka's dancing skills? Parvateshwar looked at Shiva and then towards the river once again.
I think there is scope for improvement, my lord. But I'm sure Princess Anandmai will teach him well.
Shiva smiled at Parvateshwar and shook his head. Yes, I'm sure she will.
The Nilkant and his entourage left for Branga a month back, Your Highness,
said the Naga lord of the people to the queen. They were sitting in her private chambers.
Good to see you focused once again. I'll send a warning message to King Chandraketu.
The Naga nodded. He was about to say something more, but kept silent. Instead, he looked out of the window. From this position in Panchvati, he could see the calm Godavari river in the distance.
And?
Asked the queen.
I'd like your permission to go to Kashi.
Why? Do you want to open trade relations with them?
Asked the queen, highly tickled.
She did not go with the Nilkant.
The queen stiffened.
Please, Your Highness. This is important to me.
What do you hope to achieve, my child?
Asked the queen.
This is a foolhardy quest.
I want answers.
What difference will that make?
It will give me peace.
The queen sighed.
This quest will be your downfall.
It will complete me, Your Highness.
You are forgetting that you have duties towards your own people.
I first have a duty unto myself, Mausi.
The queen shook her head.
Wait till the Rajya Sabha is over. I need you here to ensure that the motion to support Branga is not defeated. After that, you can go.
The Naga bent low and touched the queen's feet.
Thank you, Mausi.
But you will not go alone. I don't trust you to take care of yourself. I will come with you.
The Naga smiled softly.
Thank you.
Shiva's entourage was just a week's distance from the gates of Branga. The ships had maintained a punishing schedule. Parvateshwar and Devadas had taken a clipper to the lead boat in order to confer with Drapaku about the protocol on reaching the gates. Parvateshwar made it very clear that the Lord Nilkant did not want any bloodshed. Devadas was to complete the negotiations necessary in order to enter the restricted Branga territory. He felt it would be impossible to enter without showing the Nilkant, for the Brangas too believed in the legend. Parvateshwar advised him to try and enter without having to resort to that. Devadas was left with Drapaku, so they could plan the flag display as well, while Parvateshwar returned to the central vessel. He wanted to take the Lord Mahadev's advice on how he would like the Branga border guards handled. Parvateshwar did not want to let his guard down, and yet, given the delicacy of the mission, it was imperative that the Brangas did not view the 5-ship fleet as a threat. His rowers tied the cutter to the main ship, and he climbed up to the aft section. He was taken aback to see Anandmai there. She had her back to him, 6 knives in her hand. The standard target board at the wall had been removed, and the expert board, much smaller in size, had been hung up there. Bhagirath and Uttanka were standing a short distance away. Uttanka turned towards Anandmai.
Remember what I have taught you, princess. No breaks, a continuous shower of knives.
Anandmai rolled her eyes.
Yes, Guruji. I heard you the first time. I'm not deaf.
I'm sorry, Your Highness.
Now, stand aside.
Uttanka moved away. Parvateshwar, standing at the back, was dumbfounded by what he saw. Anandmai was standing correctly, like a trained warrior, with her feet slightly spread in a stable posture, her right hand relaxed to her side, the left hand holding the 6 knives from the hilt, positioned close to her right shoulder, her breathing light and calm. Perfect. Then she raised her right hand, and in a dramatically rapid action, pulled the first knife from her left hand and threw. Almost simultaneously, she reached for the second knife and released it, and then the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Anandmai's movements were so flawless that Parvateshwar did not even see the target. He stood there admiring her action, his mouth open in awe. Then he heard Uttanka and Bhagirath applauding. He turned towards the board. Every knife had hit dead center. Perfect.
By the great Lord Ram!
Marveled Parvateshwar. Anandmai turned with a broad smile.
Parva, when did you get here?
Parvateshwar, meanwhile, had found something else to admire. He was staring at Anandmai's bare legs. Or so it seemed. Anandmai shifted her weight, relaxing her hips to the side saucily.
See something you like, Parva?
Parvateshwar whispered softly, pointing with a bit of wonder at the scabbard hanging by Anandmai's waist.
That is a long sword.
Anandmai's face fell.
You really know how to sweep a woman back onto her feet, don't you?
Sorry?
Asked Parvateshwar. Anandmai just shook her head.
But that is a long sword,
said Parvateshwar.
When did you learn to wield that?
Wielding a sword that was significantly longer than a warrior's arm length was a rare skill, difficult to master. But those who mastered it dramatically improved their chances of a kill. Bhagirath and Uttanka had now walked up close. Bhagirath answered,
Uttanka has been teaching her for the last month, General. She is a quick student.
Parvateshwar turned back to Anandmai, bowed his head slightly.
It would be my honor to duel with you, Princess.
Anandmai raised her eyebrows.
You want to duel with me? What the hell do you think you're trying to prove?
I'm not trying to prove anything, Your Highness,
said Parvateshwar, surprised at Anandmai's belligerence.
It would just be a pleasure to duel with you and test your skills.
Test my skills? You think that's why I'm learning the art of warfare, so that you can test me and prove yourself superior? I already know you're better. Don't exert yourself.
Parvateshwar breathed deeply, trying to control his rising temper.
My lady, that's not what I was trying to imply. I was just...
Anandmai interrupted him.
For a sharp man, you can be remarkably stupid sometimes. General, I just don't know what I was thinking.
Bhagirath tried to step in.
Listen, I don't think there is a need to...
But Anandmai had already turned and stormed off. The sun had just risen over the Ganga, tinting it a stunning orange. Sati was standing at her chamber window, looking down at the river. Karthik was playing in the back with Kritika. Sati turned to look at her friend and son. She smiled.
Kritika is almost like a second mother to Karthik. My son is so lucky.
Sati turned back towards the river. She noticed a movement. Peering harder, she saw what was going on and frowned. Emperor Atithigwa was off again to his mystery palace. Apparently, for yet another puja for the future of Kashi. She found this odd. The entire city of Kashi was celebrating Raksha Bandhan that day, a day when each sister tied a thread on her brother's wrist, seeking his protection in times of distress. This festival was celebrated in Meluha as well. The only difference in Swadweep was that the sisters also demanded gifts from their brothers, and the brothers had no choice but to oblige.
Shouldn't he be spending his time in Kashi? In Meluha, women would come to tie a rakhi to the local governor, and it was his duty to offer protection. This had been clearly established by Lord Ram. Why is King Atithigva not following this tradition and is instead going to his other palace? And why in Lord Ram's name is he carrying so many things? Are they part of some ritual to rid the eastern banks of bad fate? Or are they gifts? What are you thinking, Your Highness?
Sati turned around to find Kritika staring at her.
I must find an answer to the mystery of this eastern palace. But nobody is allowed in there. You know that. The king even made some strange excuses not to take the Neelkant there. I know, but something is not right. And why is the king taking so many gifts there today? I don't know, Your Highness.
Sati turned towards Kritika.
I am going there.
Kritika stared at Sati in alarm.
My lady, you cannot. There are lookouts at the palace heights. It's surrounded by walls. They will see any boat approaching. That's why I intend to swim across.
Kritika was now in panic. The Ganga was too broad to swim across.
My lady, I've been planning this for weeks, Kritika. I've practiced many times. There's a sandbank in the middle of the river where I can rest unseen. But how will you enter the palace? I can hazard a guess about the structural layout from the terrace of our chamber. The eastern palace is guarded heavily, but only at the entrance. I have also noticed the guards are not allowed into the main palace. There's a water drain at the far end of the palace. I can swim through it without leaving anyone the wiser. But I'm going. Take care of Karthik. If all goes well, I will be back by nightfall.
The ships turned the last meander of the Ganga to emerge a short distance from the legendary gates of Branga. By the holy lake, whispered Shiva in awe. Even the Meluhans, used to their own renowned engineering skills and celebrated monuments, were dumbstruck. The gates gleamed in the midday sun, having been built almost entirely of the newly discovered metal, iron. The barrier was spread across the river, and it extended additionally into fort walls along the banks, which ran a further 100 kilometers inland. This was to prevent anyone from dismantling a smaller ship, carrying it across land, and then reassembling it on the other side. There were no roads at the Branga border. The Ganga was the only way in. And anyone stupid enough to go deep into the jungle would probably be killed by wild animals and disease before meeting any Branga man. The barrier's base was a cage built of iron, which allowed the waters of the mighty Ganga to flow through, but prevented any person or large fish from swimming through underwater. The barrier had, oddly enough, 5 open spaces in between, to allow 5 ships to sail through simultaneously. It seemed odd at first sight, because it appeared that a fast cutter could just race through the gap before any Branga could attack it.
That seems bizarre,
said Bhagirath.
Why build a barrier and then leave openings through it?
Those aren't openings, Bhagirath, said Shiva. They are traps. Shiva pointed at a Branga ship that had just entered the gates. At the beginning of the opening was a deep pool of water, with a base made of waterproof teak, into which the ship had sailed in. There was a cleverly designed pump system that allowed the waters of the Ganga to come into the pool. This raised the ship to the correct height. And then they saw the fearsome magic of the gates of Branga. 2 thick iron platforms rapidly extended from both sides of the pool onto the ship, fitting onto the groove on the extended iron base at the bottom of the hull. The platform had rollers on its edge, which fit snugly within the channel of the iron base of the ship. Shiva looked at Parvateshwar. So that's why Devadas built the base at the bottom of our hulls. Parvateshwar nodded in awe.
The platforms extended with such rapid force. If we didn't have the iron base at the bottom, it would just crush the hull of our ship.
Iron chains were being fitted onto the hooks on the hull of the ship. The chains were then attached to a strange-looking machine, which appeared to be like a medley of pulleys.
But what animal did they use to make the platform move so fast?
Asked Bhagirath.
This force is beyond any animal's capability. Even a herd of elephants.
Shiva pointed to the Branga ship. The pulleys had started moving with rapid force, extending the chains, pulling the vessel forward. The rollers on the platform permitted the ship to move with minimum friction, allowing it to maintain its amazing speed.
My God!
Whispered Bhagirath again.
Look at that! What animal can make the pulleys move so quickly?
It's a machine, said Shiva. Devadas had told me about some accumulator machines, which store the energy of various animals over hours, and then release them in seconds. Bhagirath frowned. Look, said Shiva. A massive cylinder of rock was coming down rapidly. Next to it was another similar cylinder being slowly pushed up by pulleys as 20 bulls yoked to the machine gradually went around it in circles. The bulls are charging the machine with hours of labor, said Shiva. The massive rock is locked at a height. When the platform is to be extended or a ship pulled, they remove the lock on the rock. It comes crashing down, the momentum releasing a tremendous force that propels the platforms.
By the great Lord Indra,
said Bhagirath.
A simple design, but so brilliant.
Shiva nodded. He turned towards the Branga office at the entry gates. Their ships had anchored close to the gates. Devadas had already stepped off to negotiate with the Branga officer in charge.
Why are you back so soon? You have enough medicines for a year.
Devadas was shocked at the manner in which Major Uma was speaking. She was always strict but never rude. He had been delighted that she had been posted at the gates. Though he hadn't met her in years, they had been friends a long time back. He had thought he could use his friendship with her to gain easy passage into Branga. "What's the matter, Uma?" asked Devadas.
It is Major Uma. I'm on duty.
"I'm sorry, Major. I meant no disrespect."
I can't let you go back unless you give me a good reason.
"Why would I need a reason to enter my own country?"
This is not your country anymore. You chose to abandon it. Kashi is your land. Go back there.
"Major Uma, you know I had no choice. You know the risks to the life of my child in Branga."
You think those who live in Branga don't? You think we don't love our children? Yet we choose to live in our own land. You suffer the consequences of your choice.
Devadas realized this was getting nowhere. "I have to meet the king on a matter of national importance." Uma narrowed her eyes.
Really? I guess the king has some important business dealings with Kashi, right?
Devadas breathed in deeply. "Major Uma, it is very important that I meet the king. You must trust me."
Unless you are carrying the queen of the Nagas herself on one of your ships, I can't see anything important enough to let you through.
"I'm carrying someone far more important than the queen of the Nagas,"
Kashi has really improved your sense of humor, Devadas.
sneered Uma.
I suggest you turn back and shine your supreme light somewhere else.
The snide pun on Kashi's name convinced Devadas that he was facing a changed Uma. An angry and bitter Uma, incapable of listening to reason. He had no choice. He had to get the Nilkant. He knew Uma used to believe in the legend. "I'll come back with the person who is more important than the queen of the Nagas herself," said Devadas, turning to leave. The small cutter had just docked at the Branga office. Devadas alit first, followed by Shiva, Parvateshwar, Bhagirath, Drapaku and Purvaka. Uma, standing outside her office, sighed.
You really don't give up, do you?
"This is very important, Major Uma," said Devadas. Uma recognized Bhagirath.
Is this the person? You think I should break the rules for the Prince of Ayodhya?
"He is the Prince of Swadweep, Major Uma. Don't forget that. We send tribute to Ayodhya."
So you are more loyal to Ayodhya as well now. How many times will you abandon Branga?
Major, in the name of Ayodhya, I respectfully ask you to let us pass.
said Bhagirath, trying hard not to lose his temper. He knew the Nilkant did not want any bloodshed.
Our terms of the Ashwamedh Treaty were very clear, Prince. We send you a tribute annually, and Ayodhya never enters Branga. We have maintained our part of the agreement. The orders to me are to help you maintain your part of the bargain.
Shiva stepped forward. If I may, Uma was at the end of her patience. She stepped forward and pushed Shiva.
Get out of here!
Uma! Devadas pulled out his sword. Bhagirath, Parvateshwar, Drapaku and Purvaka too drew out their swords instantly.
I will kill your entire family for this blasphemy,
swore Drapaku. Wait, said Shiva. His arms spread wide, stopping his men. Shiva turned towards Uma. She was staring at him, shocked. The Angavastram that he had wrapped around his body for warmth had come undone, revealing his Nilkant, the prophesied blue throat. The Branga soldiers around Uma immediately went down on their knees, heads bowed in respect, tears flooding their eyes. Uma continued to stare, her mouth half open. Shiva cleared his throat. I really need to pass through, Major Uma. May I request your cooperation? Uma's face turned mottled red.
Where the hell have you been?
Shiva frowned. Uma bent forward, tears in her eyes, banging her small fists on Shiva's well-honed chest.
Where the hell have you been? We have been waiting. We have been suffering. Where the hell have you been?
Shiva tried to hold Uma, to comfort her, but she sank down holding Shiva's leg, wailing.
Where the hell have you been?
A concerned Devadas turned to another Branga friend, also posted at the border. His friend whispered,
Last month, Major Uma lost her only child to the plague. Her husband and she had conceived after years of trying. She was devastated.
Devadas looked at Uma with empathy, understanding her angst. He couldn't even begin to imagine what would happen to him if he lost his baby. Shiva, who had heard the entire conversation, squatted. He cradled Uma in the shelter of his arms, as though trying to give her his strength.
Why didn't you come earlier?
Uma kept crying, inconsolable. Chapter 11. The Mystery of the Eastern Palace. Sati was resting on the sandbank in the middle of the Ganga. She kept low to avoid being seen from the Eastern Palace, her brown clothes an effective camouflage. She kept her breathing steady, rejuvenating her tired muscles. Reaching back, she again checked the hold on her sword and shield. It was secure on her back. She didn't want it slipping out into the Ganga, leaving her defenseless when she entered the palace. Reaching to her side, she pulled out a small pouch. She ate the fruit inside quickly. Once done, she tucked the empty pouch back, then slipped quietly back into the Ganga. A little while later, Sati crept gradually onto the eastern banks. Far from the well-guarded ghats of the palace, where the king's boats had been anchored, was a concealed drain. It was impossible to see from anywhere in Kashi or the Ganga, but the elevation of the palace, that was Sati's quarters for the duration of her visit to the city, the only building of that height in Kashi, allowed her to chance upon it. She crept slowly into the foliage, suspecting the channel was behind it. She quietly slipped into the drain, swimming with powerful strokes towards the palace. The drain was surprisingly clean. Not too many people in the palace, perhaps. Closer to the palace wall, the drain disappeared underground. Sati dived underwater. Metal bars protected the drain opening near the palace premises. Sati pulled out a file from her pouch and started cutting away at the bar. She only went up for air when her lungs started burning for oxygen. She dived back and continued filing the rusty old metal bars. With only 5 trips up for air, Sati was able to cut through 2 of the rods, space enough for her to slip through. Sati emerged along the western wall of the palace to find herself in a breathtaking garden. The area was completely deserted. Perhaps nobody expected an intruder from this end. While the ground was covered with lush green grass, flowers and trees appeared to have been allowed to go wild, giving the garden the appearance of a barely restrained forest. Picturesque and natural. Sati hurried through the garden, careful not to step on any dried twigs. She reached a side entrance and walked in. The eeriness of the palace was starting to get to her. There was no sound, no servants toiling away, no sounds of royalty making merry, no sounds of birds in the garden, nothing. It was like she had stepped into a vacuum. She hurried through the corridors, not finding anyone to obstruct or challenge her. She went through the luxurious palace which looked like it had never been lived in. Suddenly, she heard the soft sounds of laughter. She crept in that direction. The corridor opened into the main courtyard. Sati hid behind a pillar. She could see King Adithigva sitting in the center on a throne. Standing next to him were his wife and son. 3 ancient-looking attendants, who Sati had never seen before, stood next to them, holding puja thalis with all the necessary accoutrements for a Rakhi ceremony, including the sacred thread itself.
Why is he getting his Rakhi tied here?
And then a woman stepped forward. Sati's breathing stopped in horror.
Naga!
The entire crew on all 5 ships was crowded on the port and starboard side, watching the operation with awe and wonder. Shiva's men were completely astounded by the Branga gates. They had seen the platform close in on their ship with frightening force. Then the hooks were secured to the chains. The Brangas, after the go-ahead from the respective ship captains, began towing the fleet. Shiva was standing aft, looking at the office at the entrance gate. Every Branga not working on the gate machinery was on his knees, paying obeisance to the Nilkant. But Shiva was staring at a broken woman curled up against the wall in a fetal position. She was still crying. Shiva had tears in his eyes. He knew Uma believed that fate had cheated her daughter. She believed that if the Nilkant had arrived a month earlier, her child would still be alive. But the Nilkant himself was not so sure. What could I have done? He continued to stare at Uma. Holy lake, give me strength. I will fight this plague. The ground staff got the signal. They released the accumulator machines and the pulleys began turning, moving the ship rapidly forward. Seeing the vision of Uma retreating swiftly, Shiva whispered, "I'm sorry." Sati was stunned. A Naga woman with the king of Kashi? The Naga woman was actually 2 women in one body. The body was one from the chest down. But there were 2 sets of shoulders fused to each other at the chest, each with a single arm dangling in either direction. The Naga had 2 heads.
1 body, 2 arms, 4 shoulders, and 2 heads. Lord Ram, what evil is this?
Sati realized quickly that each head was fighting for control over their common body. One head seemed docile, wanting to come forward to tie the Rakhi on the king's extended arm. The other head, playful and mischievous, intent on playing pranks on her brother, was pulling back.
Maya,
said Adithigva.
Stop playing pranks and tie the Rakhi on my wrist.
The mischievous head laughed and commanded the body to come forward to fulfill her brother's wish. Adithigva proudly displayed his Rakhi to his wife and son. Then he took some sweets from the plates held by the attendant and gave them to his sister. The attendant then came forward with a sword. Adithigva looked at the mischievous sister and gave the sword to her.
Practice well. You're really improving.
The attendant then gave a veena, a stringed musical instrument, to the king.
Atithigva turned to the other sister and gave the instrument to her.
I love to hear you play.
Their arms seemed to be in a quandary as to which gift to hold.
Now, don't you squabble over the gifts, dear sisters. I mean for you to share them sensibly.
Just then, one of the attendants noticed Sati. She screamed out loud. Sati immediately drew her sword. Maya did as well. But the heads hadn't come to a consensus. She seemed to be hesitating. Ultimately, the docile head won. She ran behind her brother. Atithigva's wife and son stood rooted to their spot. Atithigva, however, was staring hard at Sati, eyes defiant, arm protectively drawn around his sister.
Your Highness,
Said Sati.
what is the meaning of this?
I'm only getting a rakhi tied by my sister, my lady.
Said Atithigva.
You're sheltering a Naga. You are hiding this from your people. This is wrong.
She is my sister, my lady.
But she is a Naga.
I don't care. All I know is that she is my sister. I'm sworn to protect her.
But she should be in the Naga territory.
Why should she be with those monsters?
Lord Rudra would not have allowed this.
Lord Rudra said judge a person by his karma, not his appearance.
Sati kept quiet, troubled. Maya suddenly stepped forward. The aggressive personality had come up front. The docile one seemed to be struggling to pull the body back.
Let me go!
Screamed the aggressive one. The docile head capitulated. Maya moved forward and dropped her sword, not wanting to convey any threat.
Why do you hate us?
Said the Naga's aggressive head. Sati stood dumbfounded.
I don't hate you. I was just talking about the rules to be followed. Really? So the rules made thousands of years back, in a different land, by people who don't know us or our circumstances, will govern every aspect of our lives?
Sati kept silent.
You think this is how Lord Ram would have liked it? Lord Ram ordered his followers to obey the rules. He also said that rules are not an end in itself. They are made to create a just and stable society. But what if the rules themselves cause injustice? Then how do you follow Lord Ram? By following those rules or breaking them?
Sati didn't have an answer.
Brother has spoken a lot about you and the Lord Nilkant.
Said Maya.
Aren't you supposed to be a Vikarma?
Sati stiffened.
I followed those rules as long as they were active. And why was the Vikarma law changed? Shiva didn't change it for me. Believe what you want, that the change in law helped you as well, right?
Sati kept quiet, disturbed. Maya continued.
I have heard many tales about the Nilkant. I'll tell you why he changed it. The Vikarma law may have made sense 1,000 years back, but in this day and age, it's unfair. It was just a tool to oppress people who don't understand.
Sati was about to say something, but kept quiet.
And who is more misunderstood today than a person with a deformity? Call us Naga, call us a monster, throw us to the south of the Narmada, where our presence will not trouble your lily-white lives. So what you're saying is that all Nagas are paragons of virtue. We don't know, and we don't care. Why should we answer for the Nagas, just because we were born deformed? Will you answer for every Suryavanshi who breaks the law?
Sati kept silent.
Isn't it punishment enough that we live alone in this God-forsaken palace, with only 3 servants for company? That the only excitement in our lives is the periodic visits of our brother? How much more do you want to punish us? And will you kindly explain what we are being punished for?
The docile personality suddenly seemed to assert herself, and Maya abruptly moved back, hiding behind Atithigva. Atithigva bent low.
Please, Lady Sati, I beg you, please don't tell anyone.
Sati remained quiet.
She's my sister.
Pleaded Atithigva.
My father made me swear on his deathbed that I would protect her. I cannot break my pledge.
Sati looked at Maya and then at Adithigva. For the first time in her life, she was confronted with a viewpoint of a Naga, and she could see the unfairness they had faced.
I love her.
Said Adithigva.
Please,
I promise to keep quiet.
will you swear in the name of Lord Ram, my lady?
Sati frowned.
I am a Suryavanshi, Your Highness. We don't break our promises. And everything we do is in the name of Lord Ram.
As soon as the ships went through the gates, Drapaku ordered the sails up full mast. He directed the other ships to quickly fall into formation. They had just gone a short distance when they beheld the mighty Brahmaputra flowing down to marshal with the Ganga, and together form probably one of the largest freshwater bodies in the world.
By the great Lord Varun,
Said Drapaku in awe, remembering the god of water and seas.
that river is almost as big as an ocean.
Yes, said Devadas proudly. Turning to Purvaka, Drapaku said,
I wish you could see this, father. I have never seen a river so massive. I can see it through your eyes, my son. Brahmaputra is the largest river in India, Brigadier,
said Devadas.
the only one with a masculine name.
Drapaku thought about it for a moment.
You're right. I never thought of that. Every other river in India has a feminine name, even the great Ganga that we sail on. Yes, we believe the Brahmaputra and Ganga are the father and mother of the Branga.
Purvaka started.
Of course, that must be the source of the names of your main river and your kingdom. The Brahmaputra and Ganga conjugate to create Branga. Interesting point, father,
said Drapaku. He then turned to Devadas.
Is that true? Yes.
The ships set sail down the Branga River to the capital city of the kingdom, Brangaridai, literally the heart of Branga. Parvateshwar was standing alone at the stern, watching the lead boat. The system that Anandmai had suggested of tying a line from the lead boat to the central boat was being followed. The general still marveled at the brilliant simplicity of this idea.
General,
Parvateshwar turned around to find Anandmai standing behind him. Due to the cold, she had wrapped a long angvastram around her.
Your Highness,
said Parvateshwar.
I'm sorry I didn't hear you come.
it's all right.
Said Anandmai with a slight smile.
I have soft feet.
Parvateshwar nodded, about to say something, but he hesitated.
What is it, General?
Your Highness,
Said Parvateshwar.
I meant no insult when I asked you to duel with me. In Meluha, it is a form of fellowship.
Fellowship? You make our relationship sound so boring, General.
Parvateshwar kept silent.
Well, if you have called me a friend,
Said Anandmai.
perhaps you can answer a question.
Of course,
Why did you take the vow of lifelong celibacy?
that is a long story, Your Highness.
I have all the time in the world to hear you.
More than 250 years ago, noblemen in Meluha voted for a change in Lord Ram's laws.
What is wrong with that? I thought Lord Ram had said his laws can be changed for the purpose of justice.
Yes, he did. But this particular change did not serve justice. You know about our Mica system of child management, right?
Yes.
Said Anandmai. How a mother could be expected to surrender her child without any hope of seeing him ever again was something she did not understand. But she didn't want to get into an argument with Parvateshwar.
So, what change was made in it?
The Mica system was relaxed so that the children of nobility would not be surrendered into the common pool. They would continue to be tracked separately and return to their birth parents when they turn 16.
What about the children of the common people?
They were not a part of this relaxation.
That's not fair.
That's exactly what my grandfather, Lord Satyadhwaj, thought. Nothing wrong with the relaxation itself, but one of Lord Ram's unchangeable rules was that the law should apply equally to everyone. You cannot have separate sets of rules for the nobility and the masses. That is wrong.
I agree, but didn't your grandfather oppose this change?
He did, but he was the only one opposing it. So the change still went through.
That is sad.
To protest against this corruption of Lord Ram's way, my grandfather vowed that neither he nor any of his adopted Maika descendants would ever have birth children.
Anandmai wondered who gave Lord Satyadhwaj the right to make a decision for all his descendants in perpetuity. But she didn't say anything. Parvateshwar, chest puffed up in pride, said,
And I honor that vow to this day.
Anandmai sighed and turned towards the riverbank, watching the dense forest. Parvateshwar too turned to look at the Branga river, heavily laden with silt, flowing sluggishly on.
It's strange how life works,
said Anandmai without turning towards Parvateshwar.
A good man rebelled against an injustice in a foreign land more than 250 years ago. Today that very rebellion is causing me injustice.
Parvateshwar turned to glance at Anandmai. He stared hard at her beautiful face, a soft smile on his lips. Then he shook his head and turned back towards the river. Chapter 12. The Heart of Branga. The Branga river carried too much water and silt to remain whole for long. It rapidly broke up into multiple distributaries, which spread their bounty across the land of Branga before disgorging themselves into the eastern sea, creating what was probably the largest river delta on earth. It was rumored that the land was so fertile with the flood-delivered silt and so bountiful in water that the farmers did not have to labor for their crops. All they had to do was fling the seeds and the rich soil did the rest. Branga Hriday lay on the main distributary of the Branga river, the Padma. Shiva's fleet closed in on Branga Hriday a little over 2 weeks after crossing the gates of Branga. They had sailed through lands that were prosperous and wealthy, but there was an air of death, of pathos, which hung heavy. The walls of Branga Hriday spread over an area of 1,000 hectares, almost the size of Devagiri. While the city of Devagiri had been built on 3 platforms, Branga Hriday spread itself on naturally higher ground, around 1 kilometer inland from the Padma, as a safeguard against floods. Surrounded by high walls, the capital stayed true to the Chandravanshi disdain for any long-term planning. The roads were laid out in a haphazard manner, and not in the grid form of the Meluhan cities, but the streets were still broad and tree-lined. Vast quantities of Branga wealth ensured that their buildings were superbly built and maintained, while their temples were lofty and grand. A large number of public monuments had been constructed over the centuries. Stadia for performances, halls for celebrations, exquisite gardens and public baths. Despite their superb condition, these public buildings were rarely used. The repeated bouts of the plague ensured that the Brangas saw death every day. There was very little zest left for life. The river port off the city had multiple levels to allow for the vastly varying depth of the Padma at different times of the year. At this time of the year, the peak of winter, the Padma was at its medium flow. Shiva and his entourage disembarked on the 5th level of the port. Shiva saw Parvateshwar, Drapaku, Purvaka and Devadas waiting for him on the comfortable concourse at this port level.
It's a massive port, Purvakaji,
said Shiva.
I can sense it, my lord,
smiled Purvaka.
I think these Brangas may probably have the capability to be as efficient as the Meluhans.
I don't think they care about efficiency, father,
said Drapaku.
I think that the bigger challenge for them is to simply stay alive.
Just then a short, rotund Branga man wearing an impossibly large array of gold jewelry came rushing down the steps. He saw Parvateshwar and went down on his knees, bringing his head down to his feet.
My lord, you have come. You have come. We are saved.
Parvateshwar bent down to pick up the man sternly.
I am not the Nilkant.
The Branga man looked up, confused. Parvateshwar pointed towards Shiva.
Bow down to the true Lord.
The man rushed towards Shiva's feet.
My apologies, my lord. Please don't punish Branga for my terrible mistake.
Get up, my friend, smiled Shiva. How could you recognize me when you had never seen me before? The Branga stood up, tears flooding his eyes.
Such humility, despite so much power. It could only be you, the great Mahadev.
Don't embarrass me. What is your name?
I am Pappi Raj, Prime Minister of Branga, my lord. We have set up the welcoming party for you at ground level, where King Chandraketu awaits.
Please, take me to your king. Bappi Raj proudly climbed the last step to the ground level, followed by Shiva. Bhagirath, Parvateshwar, Anandmai, Ayurvati, Devodas, Drapaku, Purvaka, Nandi and Veerbhadra followed. As soon as Shiva ascended, loud conch shells were blown by a posse of pandits. A large herd of elephants, decked in fine gold ornaments, standing a little further away, trumpeted loud enough to startle Purvaka. The splendidly carved stone pavilion at the ground level had been sheathed in gold plates to honor the Mahadev. It seemed as though almost the entire population, 400,000 citizens of Brangaride, had gathered to receive the Nilkant. At the head was the poignant figure of King Chandraketu. He was a man of medium height, with a bronzed complexion, high cheekbones and doe eyes. King Chandraketu's black hair was long like most Indians and had been neatly oiled and curled. He didn't have the muscular physique one expected of a Kshatriya. His lanky frame was clothed in a simple cream dhoti and angavastram. Despite ruling a kingdom with legendary hoards of gold and fabulous wealth, Chandraketu did not have a smidgen of gold on his body. His eyes had the look of a defeated man, struggling against fate. Chandraketu went down on his knees, his head touching the ground and his hands spread forward, as did every other Branga present. Ayushman Bhav, Your Highness, said Shiva, blessing the King Chandraketu with a long life. Chandraketu looked up, still on his knees, his hands folded in a namaste, copious tears rolling down his eyes.
I know I will live long now, my lord, and so will every Branga, for you have come.
We must stop this senseless war,
said Vasuki, looking around the Naga Rajya Sabha. Many heads nodded in agreement. He was the descendant of one of the celebrated kings of the Nagas in the past. His lineage earned him respect.
But the war is over,
said the queen.
Mount Mandar has been destroyed. The secret is with us.
Then why are we sending the medicine to the Brangas? Asked Nishad. We don't need them anymore. Helping them only gives reasons to our enemies to keep hostilities alive.
Is that how the Nagas will work from now on?
Asked the queen.
Abandoning a friend when not needed?
Suparna, whose face seemed to resemble that of a bird, spoke up.
I agree with the queen. The Brangas were and are our allies. They are the only ones who supported us. We must help them.
But we are the Nagas, said Astik. We have been punished for the sins of our previous births. We must accept our fate and live out our lives in penance. And we should advise the same to the Brangas.
The queen bit her lip. Karkotak looked at her intensely. He knew his queen hated the defeatist attitude, but he also knew what Astik said was the majority opinion. I agree, said Iravat, before looking at Suparna. And I wouldn't expect the people of Garuda to understand that. They are hungry for war all the time. That comment hurt. The people of Garuda, or Nagas with the face of birds, had been the enemies of the rest of the Nagas for long. They used to live in the fabled city of Nagapur, far to the east of Panchvati, but still within the Dandak forest. the great lord of the people, had brokered peace many years back, and Suparna, their present leader, had joined the Rajya Sabha as a trusted aide of the queen. Her people now lived in Panchavati. The queen spoke firmly.
That is uncalled for, Lord Iravat. Please don't forget, Lady Suparna has brought the people of Garuda into the joint Naga family. We are all siblings now. Anyone who insults Lady Suparna shall incur my wrath.
Iravat immediately backtracked. The queen's anger was legendary. Karkotak looked around with concern. Iravat had withdrawn, but the discussion was going nowhere. Would they be able to continue sending the medicines to the Brangas as the queen had promised? He looked at the lord of the people, who rose to speak.
Lords and ladies of the Sabha, please excuse me for the impertinence of speaking amongst you.
Everybody turned to the lord of the people. While he was the youngest member of the Rajya Sabha, he was also the most respected.
We are looking at this the wrong way. This is not about the war or our allies. This is about being true to the principles of Bhumi Devi.
Everybody frowned. Bhumi Devi, a mysterious non-Naga lady, who had come from the north in the ancient past and established the present way of life of the Nagas, was respected and honored as a goddess. To question Bhumi Devi's principles was sacrilegious.
One of her clear guidelines was that a Naga must repay in turn for everything that he receives. This is the only way to clear our karma of sins.
Most Rajya Sabha members frowned. They didn't understand where the lord of the people was going with this. The queen, Karkotak, and Suparna, however, smiled softly.
I would encourage you to look inside your pouches and see how many gold coins in there have the stamp of King Chandraketu. At least 3/4 of the gold in our kingdom has come from Branga. They have sent it as allied support, but let us recognize it for what it really is. Advance payment for the medicine.
The queen smiled at her nephew. It was his idea to tell King Chandraketu not to send plain gold ingots, but coins bearing his stamp, to remind the Nagas of what they received from the Brangas.
By my simple calculations, we have received enough gold to supply medicines for the next 30 years. If we are to honor Bhumi Devi's principles, I say we have no choice but to keep supplying the medicines to them.
The Rajya Sabha had no choice. How could they question Bhumi Devi's guidelines? The motion was passed.
My lord, how do we stop the plague?
Asked Chandraketu. Shiva, Chandraketu, Bhagirath, Parvateshwar, Devadas, and Bappiraj were in the king's private chambers in the Brangaridaya palace.
The route will be through the Nagas, your highness,
said Shiva.
I believe they are the cause of the troubles of India, and your plague. I know that you know where they live. I need to find them.
Chandraketu stiffened, his melancholic eyes shutting for a bit. He then turned to Bappiraj.
Please excuse us for a little while, Prime Minister.
Bappiraj tried to argue.
But, your highness.
The king narrowed his eyes and continued to stare at his Prime Minister. Bappiraj immediately left the chambers. Chandraketu went to a side wall, took off a ring from his forefinger, and pressed it into an indentation. A small box sprang out of the wall with a soft click. The king picked up a parchment from it and walked back towards Shiva.
My lord,
said Chandraketu,
this is a letter I received from the Queen of the Nagas just a few days back.
Shiva scowled softly.
I beg you to hear it with an open mind, my lord,
said Chandraketu, before lifting the parchment and reading aloud.
My friend Chandraketu, my apologies for the delay in delivery of this year's supply of the medicines. The troubles with my Rajya Sabha continue. But whatever the situation, the medicines will be delivered soon. That is my word. Also, I have been informed that a charlatan claiming to be the Nilkant is coming to your kingdom. I believe he wants to find a way to our land. All that he has to offer you are promises. What you get from us is our medicine. What do you think will keep your people alive? Choose wisely.
Chandraketu looked up at Shiva.
It has the seal of the Naga queen.
Shiva did not have an answer. Devadas spoke up.
But, Your Highness, I think that the Nagas have cast the spell on us. The plague is their creation. Fight it we must. But to battle it properly, we have to attack the source. Panchvati, the city of the Nagas.
Devadas, even if I agree with you, we cannot forget that what keeps us alive is their medicine. Until the plague is stopped, we cannot survive without the Nagas.
But they are your enemies, Your Highness,
said Bhagirath.
How can you not seek vengeance for the plague they have wrought upon you?
I'm fighting every day to keep my people alive, Prince Bhagirath. Vengeance is a luxury I cannot afford.
It's not about vengeance, it's about justice,
said Parvateshwar.
No, General,
said Chandraketu.
It is not about vengeance or justice. It is only about one thing, keeping my people alive. I'm not a fool. I do know that if I give you the route to Panchvati, the Lord will attack it with a massive army. The Nagas will be destroyed, along with them, their medicine too, thus demolishing the only means to Branga's survival. Unless you can guarantee me another supply source, I cannot tell you where Panchvati lies.
Shiva stared hard at Chandraketu. Though he didn't like what he was hearing, he knew what the Branga king said was right. He had no choice. Chandraketu folded his hands together, as though pleading.
My lord, you are my leader, my god, my savior. I believe in your legend. I know you will set everything right. However, while my people may forget the details, I remember the tales of Lord Rudra. I remember that legends take time to fulfill their promise, and time is the only thing my people don't have.
Shiva sighed.
You're right, Your Highness. I cannot guarantee supply of the medicines right now, and until I can, I have no right to demand the sacrifice of you.
Devadas started to say something, but Shiva silenced him with a wave.
I will take your leave, Your Highness, said Shiva. I need to think.
Chandraketu fell at Shiva's feet.
Please don't be angry with me, my lord. I have no choice.
Shiva pulled Chandraketu up to his feet.
I know.
As Shiva turned to leave, his eyes fell upon the Naga Queen's letter. He stiffened as he saw the seal at the bottom. It was an Om symbol, but not the standard one. At the meeting point of the top and bottom curve of the Om were two serpent heads. The third curve, surging out to the east, ended in a sharp serpent head, with its forked tongue struck out threateningly. Shiva growled softly. "Is this the Naga Queen's seal?"
"Yes, my lord,"
said Chandraketu.
"Can any Naga man use this seal?" "No, my lord. Only the Queen can use it." "Tell me the truth. Does any man use this seal?" "No, my lord, nobody." "That is not true, your highness." "My lord, from what I know—"
Suddenly Chandraketu stopped.
"Of course. The lord of the people also uses this seal. He is the only one in the history of the Nagas, besides the ruler, who has been allowed to do so."
Shiva snarled. "The lord of the people? What is his name?"
I don't know, my lord."
Shiva narrowed his eyes.
"I swear on my people, my lord," said Chandraketu. "I don't know. All I know is that his formal title is the Lord of the People."
"My lord,"
said Bhagirath,
"we have to insist with King Chandraketu."
Bhagirath, Parvateshwar and Devadas were sitting in Shiva's private chambers in the Brangaridaya palace. "I agree, my lord," said Devadas.
"No,"
said Shiva.
"Chandraketu has a point. We have to guarantee the supply of the Naga medicine before we attack Panchvati."
"But that is impossible, my lord,"
said Parvateshwar.
"Only the Nagas have the medicine. The only way we can get the medicine is if we control the Naga territories. And how can we attack and control the Naga territories if the Branga king does not tell us where Panchvati is?"
Shiva turned to Devadas.
"There must be another way to get the Naga medicine."
"There is. A very bizarre one, my lord,"
said Devadas.
"What?"
"But it's the worst possible way, my lord."
Let me be the judge of that. What is the way?
There is a bandit in the forests beyond the Madhumati river.
Madhumati?
Also a distributary of the Branga, my lord, to our west.
I see.
It is rumored that this bandit knows how to make the Naga medicine. Apparently he does it with the help of a secret plant he sources from beyond the Mahanadi river, which lies to the southwest.
So why doesn't this bandit sell it? After all, a bandit should be interested in money.
He's a strange bandit, my lord. It is rumored that he was born a Brahmin, but has long given up the path of knowledge for violence. Most of us believe he has serious psychological problems. He refuses to make money. He has a pathological hatred for Kshatriyas and kills any warrior who ventures into his territory, even if the poor Kshatriya has just lost his way. And he refuses to share the Naga medicine with anyone, even for untold amounts of gold, using it only for his gang of criminals.
Shiva frowned. How bizarre.
He's a monster, my lord. Even worse than the Nagas. It is rumored that he even beheaded his own mother.
My God.
Yes, my lord. How do you reason with a madman like that?
Is there any other way to get the Naga medicine?
I don't think so.
Then our choice is made. We must capture that bandit.
What is the name of this bandit, Devadas?
Said Bhagirath.
Parshuram.
Parshuram,
Cried Parvateshwar in shock.
that is the name of the sixth Lord Vishnu who lived thousands of years ago.
I know, General, said Devadas. But trust me, this bandit does not have any of the qualities of the great sixth Lord Vishnu. Chapter 13. Man-Eaters of Ichhavar.
Maharishi Bhrigu, here,
asked a surprised Dilipa.
All the nobles in India knew that Bhrigu was the Rajguru, the royal sage of Meluha, and strongly backed the Suryavanshi royalty. His sudden appearance in Ayodhya, therefore, had Dilipa bewildered. But it was also a rare honor, for Bhrigu had never visited Dilipa's capital before.
Yes, my lord,
said the Swadvipan Prime Minister Siamantak. Dilipa immediately rushed out to the chambers Siamantak had housed the great sage in. Bhrigu's room, as expected, had been kept cold, severe, and damp, just like his Himalayan abode. Dilipa immediately fell at Bhrigu's feet.
My lord Bhrigu, in my city, my palace.
What an honor! Bhrigu smiled, speaking softly.
The honor is mine, great emperor. You are the light of India.
Dilipa raised his eyebrows, even more surprised.
What can I do for you, Guruji?
Bhrigu stared hard at Dilipa.
I personally need nothing, your highness. Everything in the world is Maya, an illusion. The ultimate truth one has to realize is that we actually need nothing, because to possess an illusion is as good as possessing nothing.
Dilipa smiled, not quite understanding what Bhrigu said, but too terrified of disagreeing with the powerful Brahmin.
How is your health now? Asked Bhrigu.
Dilipa wiped his lips with a damp cotton cloth, absorbing the medicine his royal doctor had applied on it. The emperor of Swadweep had coughed some blood the previous morning. His doctors had told him that he had but a few months to live.
Nothing is secret from you, my lord.
Bhrigu nodded, not saying anything. Dilipa smiled bravely.
I have no regrets, my lord. I have lived a full life. I am content. True. How is your son, by the way?
Dilipa narrowed his eyes. There was no point in lying. This was Maharishi Bhrigu, considered by many to be a Saptarishi Uttaradhikari, a successor to the 7 sages.
Looks like he will not have to kill me. Fate will do his work for him. Anyway, who can fight destiny?
Bhrigu bent forward.
Fate controls only the weak, your highness. The strong mold the providence they want.
Dilipa frowned.
What are you saying, Guruji? How long would you like to live? Is it in my hands? No. In mine.
Dilipa laughed softly.
The Somras will have no impact, my lord. I have smuggled in large amounts from Meluha.
I have found out the hard way that it cannot cure diseases. The Somras was the greatest invention of the Saptarishis, Your Highness. But it wasn't the only one. You mean to say that? Yes. Dilipa edged back, breathing quicker. And in return? Just remember your debt. If you give me this blessing, Guruji, I will be forever indebted to you. Not to me, said Prithu. Remain indebted to India, and I shall remind you when the time comes for you to serve your country. Dilipa nodded. A few days later, a single ship bearing Shiva, Bhagirath, Parvateshwar, Anandmai, Devodas, Drapaku, Purvaka, Nandi, and Veerbhadra set off up the Padma. With them were around 500 men, half the brigade that had set off from Kashi. Only the Suryavanshis. Shiva needed disciplined warriors to take on the fearsome bandit and his gang. He suspected that too large an army might hinder his attempt at drawing the brigand out. 4 vessels and the 500 Chandravanshis had been left behind to savor Brangaridaya hospitality. Of course, Ayurvati was also on the ship. Her medical skills were certainly needed, especially since Devodas had warned of a bloody confrontation. After a few days of sailing, the ship reached the part of the Branga river where the Madhumati broke off. They swept down the Madhumati, the westernmost edge of the Branga country and its most sparsely populated areas. The land became more wild, with dense forests on both banks. A perfect place for a bandit, said Shiva. Yes, my lord, nodded Drapaku. This land is close enough to civilization to mount raids, and yet dense and impenetrable enough to hide quickly. I can imagine why the Brangas have had trouble arresting this man. We need him alive, Drapaku. We need the conduit to the Naga medicine. I know, my lord. General Parvateshwar has already issued those instructions to us. Shiva nodded. The dolphins were dancing upon the waters. Birds chirped in the dense Sundari trees. A large tiger lounged lazily along one bank. It was a picturesque scene of natural bounty, every animal enjoying the gifts of the Brahmaputra and Ganga. It is a beautiful land, my lord, said Drapaku. Shiva didn't answer. He continued to stare hard at the banks. My lord, said Drapaku, did you see something? We are being watched. I can feel it. We are being watched. Ever since her trespass into the eastern palace, Sati's relationship with Atithigva had deepened considerably, almost to a filial level. Shared secrets have a way of creating bonds. Sati had remained true to her word, not whispering to a soul about Maya, not even to Kritika. Atithigva routinely sought Sati's advice on matters of state, however inconsequential. Sati's counsel was always wise, bringing some order and control to the Chandravanshi penchant for unbridled freedom and chaos. The problem this time around, however, was a knotty one.
How can just 3 lions cause so much chaos?
Asked Sati. Atithigva had just told her about the most recent plea for help from the villagers of Ichhavar. They had been living under a mortal threat of man-eating lions for many months. Representations had been coming to Kashi for a long time. Kashi had in turn requested Ayodhya, as the overlord of Swadweep, to come to its aid. Chandravanshi bureaucrats had so far been arguing over the terms of the Ashwamedh Treaty, the main stalemate being on how the vow of protection made by Ayodhya did not cover animal attacks. Kashi, of course, had no warrior of note to lead them against even a few lions.
What do we do, my lady?
But you had sent a platoon of Kashi police a month back, right?
Yes, my lady,
said Atithigva.
They tried their best, having devised a brilliant plan to trap the lions, using the villagers to create commotion with their drums in order to drive the lions to a well-covered ditch with giant spikes in it. But to their surprise, Most of the lions seemed to have escaped and attacked a school where the village children had been huddled for safekeeping.
Sati suppressed a gasp of shock. Adithigva, with tears in his eyes, whispered,
5 children were killed.
Lord Ram, be merciful,
whispered Sati.
The beasts didn't even drag the children's bodies away. Maybe they wanted vengeance for the single lion killed when he fell into the trap.
They are not humans, Your Highness,
said Sati, irritated.
They do not feel the need for anger or vengeance. Animals kill only for 2 reasons, hunger or self-defense. But why would they kill and then leave the bodies there? Is there more to this than meets the eye?
Asked Sati.
I don't know, my lady. I'm not sure.
Where are your men?
They're still in a shower, but the villagers are preventing them from mounting any more traps. They're saying that their own lives are in great danger when the lions are lured. They want my police to venture into the jungle and hunt the lions down.
Which they don't want to do.
It's not that they don't want to, my lady. They don't know how to. They're citizens of Kashi. We don't hunt.
Sati sighed.
But they are willing to fight,
said Adithigva.
I'll go,
said Sati.
Of course not, my lady,
said Adithigva.
That's not what I wanted from you. I only wanted you to send word to Emperor Dilipa for help. He cannot refuse you.
That would take forever, Your Highness. And I know how the Swadvipan bureaucracy works. Your people will keep dying. I'll go. Assign 2 platoons of the Kashi police to travel with me. 60 soldiers, 40 traveling with me, and another 20 already in Ichawar. That should do.
Adithigva did not want Sati to venture into the forest. He had come to love her as his sister.
My lady, I can't bear to see anything.
Nothing will happen to me,
interrupted Sati.
Now assign 2 Kashi platoons. 60 men ought to be enough against 2 lions. I want the joint platoon led by that man who helped General Parvateshwar protect the Brangas. His name was Kavas, right?
Adithigva nodded.
My lady, please don't think I'm unsure about your abilities, but you are like a sister to me. I cannot allow you to put yourself in danger like this. I don't think you should go.
And I think I must go. Innocents are being killed. Lord Ram would not have allowed me to stay here. Either I can leave Kashi alone or with 40 soldiers. Which option would you like?
The ship was sailing slowly along the Madhumati. There had been no attack from Parshuram. No devil boats to set Shiva's ship on fire, no arrows to injure the lookouts, nothing. Parvateshwar and Anandmai were standing against the balustrade at the stern of the ship, staring at the reflection of the sun rising gently in the sluggish Madhumati.
The Lord is right,
said Parvateshwar.
They are watching us. I can feel it. It irritates me.
Really?
Smiled Anandmai.
I've had people staring at me all my life. It's never irritated me.
Parvateshwar turned to Anandmai, as if trying to explain his point. Then, as he understood the pun, he smiled.
By Lord Indra!
Exclaimed Anandmai.
I got you to smile. What an achievement.
Parvateshwar smiled even more broadly.
Yes, well, I was only talking about why the bandits were not attacking.
Now don't spoil the moment,
said Anandmai. She slapped Parvateshwar's wrist with the back of her hand.
You know, you look very nice when you smile. You should do it more often.
Parvateshwar blushed.
And you look even better when you blush.
Laughed Anandmai. Parvateshwar blushed even deeper.
Your Highness.
Anandmai.
Sorry?
Call me Anandmai.
How can I?
Very simple. Just say Anandmai.
Parvateshwar kept quiet.
Why can't you call me Anandmai?
I can't, Your Highness. It's not correct.
Anandmai sighed.
Tell me, Parvateshwar, who exactly defines what is correct?
Parvateshwar frowned.
Lord Ram's laws.
And, what was Lord Ram's fundamental law on punishment for a crime?
Not even one innocent man should be punished. Not even one criminal must get away.
Then you are breaking his laws.
Parvateshwar frowned.
How so?
By punishing an innocent person for a crime she did not commit.
Parvateshwar continued to frown.
Many noblemen committed a crime by breaking Lord Ram's law 250 years ago. They got away with the crime. Nobody punished them. And look at me. I had nothing to do with that crime. I wasn't even born then. And yet, you are punishing me for it today.
I'm not punishing you, Your Highness. How can I?
Yes, you are. You know you are. I know how you feel. I'm not blind. Don't pretend to be deliberately stupid. It's insulting.
Your Highness.
What would Lord Ram have told you to do?
Interrupted Anandmai. Parvateshwar clenched his fist. He looked down, sighing deeply.
Anandmai, please understand. Even if I want to, I can't.
Just then Drapaku marched up.
My lord, the Lord Nilkant requests your presence.
Parvateshwar stood rooted to his spot, still staring at Anandmai.
My lord,
repeated Drapaku. Parvateshwar whispered.
Forgive me, Your Highness. I will speak with you later.
The Meluhan general turned and marched away, followed by Drapaku. Anandmai hissed at Drapaku's retreating form.
Impeccable timing. Do you have to go, my lady?
Asked Kritika, gently rocking a sleeping Karthik. Sati looked at Kritika, bemused.
There are innocents dying, Kritika. Do I have a choice?
Kritika nodded before looking at Karthik.
My son will understand,
said Sati.
He would do the same. I'm a Kshatriya. It's my dharma to protect the weak. Dharma comes before everything else.
Kritika took a deep breath and whispered.
I agree, my lady.
Sati gently ran her hand across Karthik's face.
I need you to take good care of him. He is my life. I have never known the pleasures of motherhood. I never imagined there would be another person I would love as deeply as I love Shiva. But in such a short span of time, Karthik has...
Kritika looked at Sati with a smile, touching the princess's hand.
I will take care of him. He's my life as well.
The Naga lord of the people was kneeling in the cold waters of the Chambal river. He scooped some water in the palm of his hands and allowed it to pour slowly, mumbling quietly. He then brushed his hands across his face. The queen, kneeling next to him, raised an eyebrow.
A prayer?
I don't know if prayers will help. I don't think anybody up there is really interested in me.
The queen smiled and looked back at the river.
But there are times when you wouldn't mind the help of the Almighty,
whispered the Naga. The queen turned towards him and nodded. Getting up slowly, she put the mask back on her face.
I've received a report that she has left Kashi and is riding towards Ichhawar.
The Naga breathed deeply. He rose slowly and put the mask back on his face.
She rides with only 40 soldiers.
The Naga's breathing picked up pace. At a distance, Vishwadyumna was sitting quietly with 100 Branga soldiers. This could be the moment. Capturing her in a teeming city of 200,000 was well nigh impossible. The remoteness of Ichhawar improved the odds dramatically, and they finally had the advantage of numbers. The Naga slowly brought his breathing back to normal. Trying to keep his voice calm, he whispered,
That is good news.
The queen smiled and patted the Naga gently on his shoulder.
Don't be nervous, my child. You are not alone. I am with you, every step of the way.
The Naga nodded. His eyes narrowed. It was just the beginning of the second prahar, when Sati rode into Ichhawar at the head of her platoon, with Kavas by her side. She was shocked to see a massive pyre at the far end of the village. She rode hard, followed by her men. A man rushed up, breathless and panic-stricken, waving, Please leave. Please leave. Sati ignored him and kept riding up to the giant pyre. You cannot ignore me. I am the headman of Ichhavar. Sati noticed the faces of the villagers. Every single one had terror writ large on his face. Things have only gotten worse since you people came, shouted the headman. Sati noticed the Brahmin, who had just finished the puja at the pyre, praying for the safety of the departed souls. He was the only one who seemed to be in control. Sati rode up to him.
Where are the Kashi soldiers?
The Brahmin pointed at the giant pyre. In there.
All 20 of them?
Asked a stunned Sati. The Brahmin nodded.
They were killed by the lions last night. Just like our villagers here. Your soldiers didn't know what they were doing.
Sati looked around the pyre. It was an open area, a little outside the village, which opened straight into the forest. To the far left were some blankets and the remnants of a campfire. There was blood all over that area.
Did they sleep here?
Asked Sati in horror. The Brahmin nodded.
This is a suicide zone with man-eating lions around. Why in Lord Ram's name did they sleep here at night?
The Brahmin looked at the headman. It was their decision, said the headman defensively.
Don't lie,
said the Brahmin.
It wasn't solely their decision.
Don't you dare call me a liar, Suryaksh, said the headman. I told them their presence in any house only attracts the lions and leads to deaths. The decision to not stay in any house was their own.
You actually think the lions are interested only in the soldiers?
Asked Suryaksh.
You are wrong.
Sati had stopped listening. She was surveying the area where the Kashi soldiers had been killed. Despite the immense amounts of blood and gore, she could clearly make out the tracks of some lions and maybe lionesses. There were at least 7 distinct marks. The information they had was clearly wrong. She turned around and growled.
How many lions are here?
2, said the headman. We've never seen more than 2 lions. The third lion was killed in a trap. Sati ignored him and looked at Suryaksh. The Brahmin responded.
Judging from the tracks, at least 5 to 7.
Sati nodded. Suryaksh was the only one who appeared to know what he was talking about. Turning towards the village, Sati told Suryaksh.
Come with me. 7. That means 5 lionesses at least. A standard pride. But counting the one that died, there were 3 lions in this pride? That is strange. There is usually just 1 adult male in a pride. Something isn't right.
He is smarter than we've been told, said Shiva. Every ruse we've tried for weeks has failed. The sun was directly overhead. The ship was anchored close to a beach. Due to the heavy silt it carried, which settled and turned into natural dams, the Madhumati kept changing course all the time. The result was that there were many recently formed sandbanks along the current course of the river. These were areas clear of vegetation, which afforded enough open space for a fierce battle to be fought. Shiva had held the ship close to one such beach, firing arrows into the trees, hoping Parashuram would be goaded into coming out in the open. The plan had not succeeded so far.
Yes, my lord,
agreed Parvateshwar.
He will not be provoked into attacking out of blind hatred.
Shiva stared hard at the river bank.
I think it is the ship,
said Parvateshwar. Yes. He cannot judge how many men we have. Parvateshwar agreed.
My lord, we have to take more risks to lure him out.
I have a plan, Shiva whispered softly. Further ahead is another beach. I plan to go ashore with 100 men. Once I've taken the soldiers deep inside the forest, the ship should turn back, giving Parshuram the impression that there is dissension in the ranks, that the vessel is deserting us and departing for Branga. I'll continue into the jungle and flush him out onto the beach. When I have him there, I'll send out a fire arrow as a signal.
Then Bhagirath can quickly get the ship over there, pull down the cutters and land on the beach with 400 men overwhelming them. Just 2 things to remember, my lord. They must be with their backs to the river, so that they can't escape when the cutters arrive. And of course, the ship must not depend only on the sails but the rowers as well. Speed will be of the essence.
Shiva smiled. Exactly. Just one more thing. It will not be us on the beach. Only me. I need you on the ship.
My lord,
Cried Parvateshwar.
I cannot let you take that risk.
Parvateshwar, I will lure the bastard out. But I need you watching my back. If the cutters don't come on time, we will be slaughtered. We will be trying to capture, not kill. He will show no such restraint.
But my lord,
Said Parvateshwar. I have decided, Parvateshwar. I need you on the ship. I can trust only you. Tomorrow is the day.
This is where we'll camp.
Said Sati, pointing to the school building, the only unoccupied structure in Echawar. It had no doors and could not be barricaded against the lions. But it had a terrace, with one defendable flight of stairs leading up. It was halfway through the 3rd prahar. Nightfall, the favorite time for lions to attack, was just a few hours away. The villagers had all retired and barricaded themselves inside their homes. The massacre of the Kashi soldiers the night before had shaken all of them. Perhaps the headman was right, they thought. The presence of the Kashi soldiers was bad luck. The headman walked behind Sati, trailed by Suryaksh. You must leave. The presence of the foreigners is angering the spirits. Sati ignored him and turned to Kavas.
Station our men on the terrace. Pull up the horses as well.
Kavas nodded and rushed to carry out the orders. The headman continued. Look, they were only killing animals earlier. Now they're killing humans as well. All because of your soldiers. Just leave and the spirits will be calmed. Sati turned towards the headman.
They have tasted human blood. There is no escape. Either you abandon the village, or we have to stay here and protect you till all the lions are killed. My advice is that you gather all the villagers and we leave tomorrow morning.
We cannot abandon our motherland.
I will not allow you to condemn your people to death. I will leave tomorrow and I am taking your people as well. What you do for yourself is up to you.
My people are not going to desert Echawar. Never. Suryaksh spoke up. If the villagers had listened to me, we would have left a long time back, and this suffering would never have happened. If you were half the priest your father was, snapped the headman, you would have conjured up a puja to calm the spirits and drive the lions away. Pujas will not drive them away, you fool. Can't you smell it? The lions have marked this land. They think our village is their territory. There are only 2 options now. Fight or flee. We obviously don't want to fight. We have to flee.
Enough,
Said Sati, irritated.
No wonder the lions got the better of you. Go home. We'll meet tomorrow.
Sati walked up the steps of the school. She was happy to note a large pile of kindling halfway up the steps. She jumped over it and continued climbing. As she entered the terrace, she saw a massive pile of firewood to the left. She turned towards Kavas.
Enough to last the night?
Yes, my lady. Sati scanned the forest and whispered.
Light the fire on the staircase as soon as the sun goes down.
She stared up ahead to see a goat tied at the spot where the lions had killed the Kashi soldiers. It was a clear shot from her elevated position. She anticipated that she would be able to fire arrows upon at least a few lions. Hoping the bait would work, Sati settled down on the terrace and waited. Chapter 14. The Battle of Madhumati. Shiva, Parvateshwar, Bhagirath, Drapaku, and Devadas were seated aft on the ship. The moon was absent, cloaking the entire sea in darkness. The quietness of the jungle, except for the incessant beating of crickets, automatically made them speak softly. The problem is,
How do we make him believe that there is a rebellion and he has to fight only 100 men, not the entire crew? Whispered Shiva.
His spies would be watching us all the time,
Murmured Divodas. It has to be a believable act. We can't let our guard down for even a minute. Shiva suddenly started, motioning with his hands for everyone to keep talking. He slowly rose and crawled to the rail of the ship, picking his bow quietly, stealthily placing an arrow. And then, quick as lightning, he rose above the railing and shot the arrow. There was a loud scream of pain as one of the brigand's men, swimming towards the ship, was hit.
"Come out, you coward!" yelled Shiva. "Fight like a man!"
There was a commotion in the jungle as animals shrieked at the sudden disturbance. Birds fluttered loudly, hyenas howled, tigers roared, deer bleated. There was some splashing in the river, someone possibly trying to rescue an injured comrade. Shiva thought he heard the sound of foliage breaking as someone or something broke through and retreated. As his followers rushed up, Shiva whispered, "It wasn't a kill wound. We need Parshuram alive, remember. It makes our task tougher, but we need him alive." And then they heard a strong voice from the jungle.
Why don't you get out of the ship, you spineless wimp, and I'll show you how a man fights.
Shiva smiled. This is going to be interesting. Sati woke up with a start. Not due to some sudden noise, but because the noise had stopped. She looked towards the left. The flames were burning strong. 2 men with swords drawn were at the top of the stairs, supervising the fire.
More wood,
whispered Sati. One of the soldiers immediately crept to the stack of the firewood and dropped some more into the raging fire in the middle of the staircase. Meanwhile, Sati tiptoed to the parapet. The goat had been bleating desperately all night, but no more. She looked gingerly over the railing. The night had thrown a pitch-black shroud all around, but the flames of the school fire spread a bit of glow. The goat was still there. It wasn't standing anymore. Its hind legs had collapsed, and it was shivering desperately. "Are they here, my lady?" asked Gavas, crawling quietly to Sati.
Yes,
whispered Sati. They heard a soft, deep roar, a sound which would terrorize any living creature in the jungle. Gavas quickly woke the rest of the platoon, who drew their swords and crawled to the doorway at the end of the staircase, to defend the one passage from where the lions could charge up. Sati kept staring at the goat. Then she heard the sound of something being dragged softly. She strained her eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It wasn't their full pride. The 4th lion seemed to be dragging something.
"Oh, Lord,"
whispered Sati in horror. The body being dragged was that of Suryaksh, the village Brahmin. His hand was moving a little. He was still alive, but barely so. The largest lion, obviously the leader of the pack, came into full view. It was abnormally massive, the largest Sati had ever seen. And yet the mane was not dense. It was clearly an adolescent, not more than a year old perhaps. Then a troubling thought struck Sati. She stared at the lead animal's skin. It had the stripes of a tiger. It wasn't an adolescent at all. She gasped in shock.
"Liger."
"What?" whispered Gavas.
"A rare animal, the offspring of a lion and a tigress. It grows almost twice as big as its parents and has many times their ferocity."
The liger sauntered up to the goat. The goat's front legs too buckled as it collapsed onto the ground in terror, waiting for its imminent death. But the liger didn't strike out. He just walked around the goat, whipping it with his tail. He was toying with the bait. The lion dragging Suryaksh dropped the body and bent to bite into the Brahmin's leg. Suryaksh should have screamed in pain, but his neck was bleeding profusely. He simply didn't have the strength. The liger suddenly growled at the lion who was chewing Suryaksh's leg. The lion growled back, but retreated. The liger clearly didn't want Suryaksh eaten just as yet.
"The liger is a recent leader. The other lion still seems to have the strength to at least protest.
Followed by the lionesses, the liger walked back to the goat, lifted his hind leg and urinated around the area, marking his territory again. Then he roared, loud and strong. The message was clear. This was his territory. Anyone in it was fair game. Sati reached silently for her bow. The aggression of the pride would be cut if the liger was dead. She softly loaded an arrow and aimed. Unfortunately, just as she released the arrow, the liger stumbled on Suryaksha's body. The arrow flew past him and rammed deep into the eye of the lioness behind. She snarled in pain and ran into the forest. So did the others. But the liger turned around, baring his teeth ferociously at this intrusion, growling. He reached out with his paw and struck Suryaksha hard across the face. A fatal blow. Sati reloaded and fired again. This one hit the liger on his shoulder. The liger roared and retreated.
The lioness will be dead soon,
said Sati. But the liger will come back, said Kavas. Angrier than ever. We better leave tomorrow with the villagers. Sati nodded. The sun had just broken through the night.
You must leave. You have no choice,
said Sati. She couldn't believe she had to argue with the villagers about what was blatantly obvious. It was the beginning of the second prahar. They were standing next to the pyre consuming Suryaksha's body. Sadly, there was nobody to say prayers for his brave soul.
They will not come back,
said one villager.
What the headman says is right. The lions will not come back.
What nonsense,
argued Sati.
The liger has marked his territory. You either kill him or leave this place. There is no third option. He cannot let you have a free run in this land. He will lose control over his pride.
A village woman stepped up to argue.
The spirits have been partially appeased by the blood of Suryaksha. At the most, we will have to make one more sacrifice, and they will leave.
One more sacrifice?
Asked a flabbergasted Sati.
Yes,
said the headman.
The village cleaner is willing to sacrifice himself and his family for the good of the rest of the village.
Sati turned to see a thin, wiry little man, who also had the onerous task of collecting firewood and cremating the dead over the last few days. Behind him stood his equally puny wife, with a look of utter determination on her face. Holding onto her dhoti were two little children, no older than 2 or 3, wearing nothing but torn loincloths, unaware of the fate chosen for them by their parents. Sati turned towards the headman, fists clenched.
You are sacrificing this poor man and his family because he's the most powerless. This is wrong.
No, my lady, said the cleaner. This is my choice, my fate. I have been born low in this birth because of my past life karma. My family and I will sacrifice ourselves willingly for the good of the village. The Almighty will see our good deed and bless us in our next birth.
I admire your bravery,
said Sati.
But this will not stop the lions. They will not stop till all of you are either driven out or killed.
Our blood will satisfy them, my lady. The headman has told me so. I am sure of this.
Sati stared hard at the cleaner. Blind superstition can never be won over by logic. She looked down at his children. They were poking each other and laughing uproariously. They suddenly stopped and looked up at her, surprised, wondering why this foreign woman was staring at them.
I can't let this happen. I will stay here. I will stay till every lion has been killed. But you will not sacrifice yourself or your family. Is that clear?
The cleaner stared at Sati, confused at what to him seemed a strange suggestion. Sati turned towards Kavas. He immediately started leading the soldiers back to the school. Some of them were arguing, clearly unhappy at this turn of events. The spies of Parshuram, high in the trees, were watching attentively. Shiva and Bhagirath were on the deck. They appeared to be arguing. 3 cutters, lowered from the ship onto the Madhumati, were bobbing gently. Finally, Shiva made an angry gesture and started climbing down onto his cutter, which had Drapaku, Nandi, Veerbhadra and 30 soldiers. He looked at 2 more cutters behind them, full of soldiers. Shiva gave a signal, and they started rowing towards the bank. The ship, on the other hand, appeared to be preparing to pull anchor. One spy looked at the other with a smile. 100 soldiers. Let's go tell Lord Parshuram. The rich waters of the Madhumati and the fertile soil of Branga had conspired to grow a jungle of ferocious density. Shiva looked up at the sky. A little bit of sunshine pierced through the dense foliage. The direction of the rays told Shiva that the sun had already begun its downward journey. His platoon had hacked through the almost impenetrable forest for a good 8 hours, tracking the movements of the brigand. Shiva had broken for lunch 2 hours earlier. Though physically satiated, his soldiers were getting restless, waiting for action. Parshuram seemed to be avoiding battle even here. Suddenly Shiva raised his hand. The platoon halted. Drapaku slipped up to Shiva and whispered, "What is it, my lord?" Shiva pointed with his eyes and whispered, "This territory has been marked." Drapaku stared, confused. "See the cut on this bush?" said Shiva. Drapaku stared harder. "They have passed through here. This route has been hacked." "No," said Shiva, looking ahead. "This hasn't been hacked to walk through. It has been cut from the right side to make us think they have walked through here. There is a trap straight ahead." "Are you sure, my lord?" asked Drapaku, noticing Shiva reach slowly for his bow. Shiva suddenly turned around, pulling an arrow simultaneously and loading it onto his bow. He fired it immediately onto the top of one of the trees. There was a loud noise as an injured man came crashing down. "This way," said Shiva, running hard to the right. The soldiers followed, desperately keeping pace with their charging lord. They ran hard for what must have been a few minutes. Shiva suddenly emerged onto a beach and stopped dead. Standing in front, at a distance of around 100 meters, was Parshuram with his gang. There were at least 100 men, an equal match for the Suryavanshis. Shiva's soldiers kept running out of the jungle in a single file and started getting into formation quickly on the beach.
"I'll wait,"
said Parshuram sarcastically. His gaze locked onto Shiva.
"Get your men into position."
Shiva stared right back. Parshuram was a powerful man. Though a little shorter than Shiva, he was ridiculously muscled, his shoulders spread wide, his barrel chest heaving. In his left hand was a mighty bow, much too big for any man, but clearly his powerful arms had enough strength to pull the string clean. On his back was a quiver full of arrows, but slung the other way was the weapon that had made him famous, the weapon he used to decapitate his hapless victims, his battle axe. He wore a simple saffron dhoti, but no armor. In a sign of his Brahmin antecedents, Parshuram's head was shaved clean, except for a neat tuft of hair tied at the back, and a janeo thread tied loosely down from his left shoulder across his torso to his right. His face bore a long, mighty beard. Shiva looked to his side, waiting for all his soldiers to get into line. He sniffed. What is that? It seemed like the paraffin used by the Meluhans to light their prahar lamps. He looked down. The sand was clean. His men were safe. Shiva drew his sword and bellowed, "Surrender now, Parshuram, and you shall get justice." Parshuram burst into laughter.
"Justice? In this wretched land?"
Shiva turned his eyes to his sides. His men were in position, ready. "You can either bow your head towards justice, or you can feel its flames bear down on you. What do you want?" Parshuram sniggered and nodded at one of his men. The man raised an arrow, touched it to a flame, and shot the burning arrow high into the air, way beyond the range of the Suryavanshis. What the hell? Shiva lost sight of the arrow in the light of the sun for a moment. It landed quite some distance behind Shiva's men, and immediately set off the paraffin lying there. The flames spread quickly, making an impenetrable border. The Suryavanshis were trapped on the beach. No retreat was possible. "You're wasting your arrows, you idiot!" shouted Shiva. "Nobody's retreating from here!" Parshuram smiled.
I'm going to enjoy killing you.
To Shiva's surprise, Parshuram's archer turned around, lit another arrow, and shot it towards the river. Shit! Parshuram's men had tied thin canoes, touching each other, across the bend of the river arching the beach. Full of large quantities of paraffin, these boats immediately burst into flames as the fiery arrow hit one of them. The massive blaze made it appear like the entire river was on fire. The inferno reached high, making it almost impossible for Parvateshwar's backup cutters to row through. Parshuram looked towards Shiva with a chilling sneer.
Let's keep our merriment to ourselves, shall we?
Shiva turned and nodded at Drapaku, who immediately passed an order. An arrow shot up high into the sky and burst into blue flames. Parvateshwar had been summoned, but Shiva didn't see how the Meluhan general would be able to get through the wall of fire on the Madhumati. Small cutters couldn't slip through, and the ship itself could not come so close to the banks as it would run aground. Nobody's coming. We have to finish this ourselves. "This is your last chance, barbarian!" screamed Shiva, pointing forward with his sword. Parshuram dropped his bow. So did every archer at his command, drawing their rang weapons out. Parshuram pulled his battle axe out. He clearly wanted brutal close combat.
No, Brangan. It was your last chance. I'm going to make your end slow and painful.
Shiva dropped his bow and drew his shield forward, and spoke to his soldiers. "On guard! Go for their sword arms, injure, don't kill. We want them alive." The Suryavanshis pulled their shields forward and drew their swords, and waited. Parshuram charged, followed by his vicious horde. The bandits ran into Shiva's men with surprising speed and agility, Parshuram racing in the lead. He had no shield to protect himself. His heavy battle axe required both arms to wield. He was charging straight at Shiva. However, Drapaku swung to his left and charged. The bandit was momentarily surprised by Drapaku's charge. He swerved back to avoid the sword, and with the same smooth motion, brought his battle axe up in a brutal swing. Drapaku pushed out the shield, fixed on the hook on his amputated left hand, to defend himself. The formidable axe severed through a part of the hide-covered bronze shield. A stunned Drapaku swung his shield back, bringing his sword down, glancing a swerving Parshuram's left shoulder. Meanwhile, Shiva pirouetted smartly to avoid a vicious stab from one of the bandits, pushing the sword away with his shield. As the bandit lost balance, Shiva swung his sword down in a smooth arc, severing his enemy's sword arm from the elbow. The thug fell down, incapacitated, but alive. Shiva immediately turned and pulled his sword up to deflect a strike from another man. Nandi, pulling his sword out from the right shoulder of an enemy, pushed him down with his shield, hoping the brigand would remain down and surrender. To Nandi's surprise and admiration, the bandit dropped his shield, smoothly transferring his sword to his uninjured left hand, and jumped into the fray again. Nandi pulled his shield forward to prevent the sword strike, and pushed his sword in once again into the injured right shoulder of the thug, shouting over the din, "Surrender, you fool!" Veerbhadra, however, was not having much luck keeping his enemies alive. He had already killed two, and was trying desperately to avoid killing a very determined third. Ignoring his injured sword arm, the bandit had picked up his sword with his left hand. An exasperated Veerbhadra swung down hard with his shield on the brigand's head, hoping to knock the man out. The thug arched his shoulder, taking the blow on it while swinging his sword in a brutal cut at Veerbhadra. The sword slashed Veerbhadra across his torso. Enraged, he thrust his sword straight at the exposed flank of the bandit, driving the blade through his heart. "Damn it!" screamed a frustrated Veerbhadra. Why didn't you just surrender? In another corner of the battlefield, Shiva swung his shield sideward at the outlaw he was combating. The brigand swung his head back, getting a slash across his face, but preventing a knockout blow. Shiva was now getting worried. Too many people were getting killed, mostly on Parshuram's side. He wanted them alive, or the secret of the Naga medicine would be lost. Then he heard a loud sound. It was Parvateshwar's conch shell. They are coming! Brutally stabbing his enemy, Shiva also rammed his shield onto the bandit's head again, this time successfully knocking him cold. Then he looked up and smiled. The massive Suryavanshi ship burst through the flaming canoes, running aground onto the beach, its hull cracking. The flames on the Madhumati were high for a cutter, but not high enough for a large ship. Parshuram had banked on the idea that the Suryavanshis would not ground their ship, as this would mean they would have no way of returning to Branga. He had, however, miscalculated the determination of the Suryavanshi troops, as well as the valor of their general, Parvateshwar. The ship rammed through many of Parshuram's men, killing them instantly. Parvateshwar, standing at the bow, jumped down as soon as the ship hit the sandbank. The rope tied around his waist broke his fall from the great height. As he swung close to the ground, Parvateshwar slashed his sword above him, cutting the rope neatly and landing free. 400 Suryavanshis followed their general into battle. Drapaku had been momentarily distracted by the sight of the ship. As he swung his sword at Parshuram's axe, he failed to notice the bandit pull out a knife from behind. Parshuram brought up his left hand in a smooth action, thrusting the knife into Drapaku's neck. Pain immobilized the Suryavanshi brigadier momentarily. Parshuram rammed the knife in brutally, right up to the hilt. Drapaku staggered back, bravely retaining his hold on his sword. Meanwhile, the Suryavanshis, outnumbering Parshuram's men 5 times over, were rapidly taking control of the situation. Many brigands were surrendering, finally seeing the futility of their situation. At the center of the battle, Parshuram released the knife from a tottering Drapaku's neck. He gripped his battle axe with both hands, pulled back, and swung viciously. The axe rammed hard into Drapaku's torso, smashing through his hide and bronze armor. It struck deep, breaking through skin and flesh right down to the bone. The mighty Suryavanshi brigadier fell to the ground. Parshuram tried to pull the axe away, but it was stuck. He yanked hard. Ripping Drapaku's chest, the axe finally came out. Much to Parshuram's admiration, the Suryavanshi was still alive. The brigadier tried to raise his drastically weakened sword arm, still attempting to fight. Parshuram stepped forward and pinned Drapaku's arm down. He could feel the weakened motions of the brigadier's limb. Attempts by a dying man to not give up the fight, the sword still held tight. Parshuram was awed. He had never needed more than one clear blow with his battle axe to kill his opponents. His soldiers were rapidly losing the battle, but he didn't seem to notice. His eyes were transfixed upon the magnificent man dying at his feet. Parshuram bowed his head slightly and whispered,
"It's an honor to slay you."
The brigand raised his axe, ready for the decapitation strike. At the same instant, Anandmai flung her knife from a distance. It pierced straight through Parshuram's left hand, causing the axe to fall safely away. Bhagirath, with the help of Devadas and 2 Suryavanshi soldiers, wrestled Parshuram to the ground without any further injury to the bandit. Shiva and Parvateshwar ran to Drapaku. He was bleeding profusely, barely alive. Shiva turned back and shouted, "Get Ayurvati, quickly!" The sun still had a few hours of life left. Sati was on the school terrace, supervising the making of improvised bows and arrows. The Kashi soldiers were simply incapable of taking on the lions from close quarters. Neither were they skilled at shooting arrows. Sati was hoping that as long as they fired some in the general direction, the arrows might find their mark. Sati double-checked the pile of wood near the staircase. The soldiers had replenished the stock, and it appeared as though they would be able to last the night without running out. She hoped to kill some members of the Pride from the safety of the terrace. If fortune favored her, she hoped to kill the liger and finish the key source of the menace. A few days of watch thereafter might solve the problem once and for all. After all, there were only 7 animals, not a very large pride. She looked up at the sky, praying softly that nothing would go wrong. Chapter 15. The Lord of the People. The sun was rapidly descending into the horizon, the twilight sky a vibrant ochre. The Suryavanshi camp was a hub of feverish activity. Bhagirath was supervising the key task of the securing of the prisoners. Using bronze chains from the ship, Parshuram's men had been tied up, hand and foot, and forced to squat in a line in the center of the sandbank. The chains had been hammered into stakes deep in the ground. As if that wasn't enough, another chain ran through their anklets, effectively binding them to each other. The Suryavanshi soldiers were stationed all around the prisoners. They would maintain a constant vigil. Escape was impossible for Parshuram and his men. Devadas walked up to Bhagirath. "Your Highness, I've inspected the ship."
And?
"It will take at least 6 months to repair." Bhagirath cursed.
How the hell do we get back?
At the other end of the beach, Ayurale tents had been set up. Ayurvati and her medical unit were working desperately to save as many as they could, both the Suryavanshis and the bandits. They would succeed with most, but Ayurvati was presently in a tent where there was no hope. Shiva was on his knees, holding Drapaku's hand. Ayurvati knew nothing could be done. The injuries were too deep. She stood at the back with Nandi and Parvateshwar. Drapaku's father, Purvaka, was kneeling on the other side, looking lost once again. Drapaku kept opening his mouth, trying to say something. Shiva bent forward. "What is it, my friend?" Drapaku couldn't speak. Blood continued to ooze from his mouth. He turned towards his father and then back to Shiva. The movement caused his heart to spurt, spilling some more blood out of his gaping chest onto the sheet covering him. Shiva, his eyes moist, whispered, "I will take care of him, Drapaku. I will take care of him." A long breath escaped Drapaku. He had heard what he needed to, and he let himself die, at peace finally. A gasp escaped Purvaka's lips. His head collapsed on his son's shoulders, his body shaking. Shiva reached out and touched Purvaka gently on his shoulders. Purvaka looked up, his forehead covered with his son's brave blood, tears flowing furiously. He looked at Shiva, devastated. The proud, confident Purvaka was gone. It was the same broken man that had met Shiva at Kotdwar in Meluha. His only reason to stay alive had been brutally hacked away. Shiva's heart sank. He couldn't bear to look at this Purvaka. And then rage entered his heart. Pure, furious rage. Shiva rose. To Parvateshwar's surprise, Nandi lunged forward, grabbing Shiva. "No, my lord, this is wrong." Shiva angrily pushed Nandi aside and stormed out. He began running to where Parshuram had been tied up. Nandi was running behind, still screaming, "No, my lord, he's a prisoner, this is wrong." Shiva was running even harder. As he came close to where Parshuram had been tied, he drew out his sword. Bhagirath, standing at the other end of the line, screamed out,
"No, my lord, we need him alive."
But Shiva was frenzied, screaming, racing quickly towards Parshuram, his sword high, ready to behead the bandit. Parshuram continued to stare blankly, not a hint of fear on his face. And then he shut his eyes and shouted the words he wanted to die with.
"Jai Guru Vishwamitra! Jai Guru Vashisht!"
A stunned Shiva stopped in his tracks, paralyzed. Not feeling the sword strike on his neck, Parshuram opened his eyes and stared at Shiva, confused. The sword slipped from Shiva's hands. Vasudev? Parshuram looked as shocked as Shiva. He finally got a good look at Shiva's throat, deliberately covered by a cravat. Realization dawned.
Oh Lord, what have I done? Nilkant! Lord Nilkant!
Parshuram brought his head down towards Shiva's feet, tears flooding his eyes.
Forgive me, Lord. Forgive me. I didn't know it was you.
Shiva just stood there, paralyzed. A half-asleep Sati heard the throaty roars. She immediately became alert.
They are here.
She turned towards the doorway. The fire was burning strong. 2 soldiers were sitting guard.
Kavas, they are here. Wake everyone up.
Sati crept up to the terrace railing. She couldn't see any lion as yet. The moon had a bit of strength tonight. She wasn't dependent only on the fire. Then she saw the liger emerge from the tree line. The arrow Sati had shot was still buried in his shoulder, its shaft broken. It made him drag his front foot marginally. "There's another male lion," whispered Kavas, pointing. Sati nodded. She drew her bow forward. But before she could shoot, the sight in front of her stunned her. Numerous lionesses were pouring out from behind the liger. The pride was far larger than the 7 animals she had assumed there would be. She continued to watch in horror as more and more animals emerged. One lioness after another, till there were nearly 30 of them on display.
Lord Ram, be merciful.
After the attack the previous night, the liger had brought his whole army to combat the threat, and it was a massive pride.
This explains the 3 male lions. The liger has actually taken over and merged 3 prides into one.
Sati slunk back and turned around. She couldn't shoot so many lionesses. She looked around her. There was pure terror in the eyes of the Kashi soldiers. She pointed to the doorway.
2 more men there, and more wood into the fire.
The Kashi soldiers rushed to obey. Sati's brain was whirring, but no idea struck her. That's when she heard it. She immediately turned around and crept to the railing, hearing the sound clearer. 2 children were crying, howling desperately for their lives. Sati opened her eyes wide in panic.
Please, no!
The village cleaner and his wife were walking determinedly towards the lions. They wore saffron to signify their sacrifice, their final journey. The children, naked to the elements, were held one each by their parents. They were bawling frantically. The liger turned towards the couple and growled. Sati drew her sword.
No!
"No, my lady!" screamed Kavas. But Sati had already jumped over onto the ground. She charged towards the lions, sword held high. The lions turned towards her, surprised, forgetting about the cleaner and his family. Then the liger registered Sati. He roared loudly, and his pride charged. The Kashi soldiers jumped onto the ground after Sati, inspired by the sheer bravery displayed by their leader. But inspiration is no substitute for skill. Sati swung as she neared a massive lioness, turning smoothly with the movement, slicing through the nose and eye of the beast. As the lioness retreated, howling, Sati turned in the same smooth motion to attack a lion in front of her. Another lioness charged her from the right. A brave Kashi soldier jumped in front. The lioness grabbed the unfortunate soldier from his throat, shaking him like a rag doll. The soldier, however, had managed to lodge his sword deep into the lioness's chest. As he died, so did the lioness. Kavas was frantically battling a lioness that had sunk her teeth into his leg, gouging his flesh. He was swinging down with his sword, hitting her on her shoulder again and again with ineffective strikes. The Kashi men were fighting desperately, bravely, but it was clearly a matter of time before they would be overwhelmed. They didn't have the training or the skill to battle this well-coordinated pride. Sati knew it was but a matter of time before they would succumb.
Lord Ram, let me die with honor.
Then a resounding yell rose above the mayhem. 100 soldiers broke through the tree line, rushing into the melee. One of them was blowing a conch shell.
the fierce call of a Naga attack. A stunned Sati continued fighting the lioness in front of her, but her thoughts were distracted, wondering why these soldiers had come to the village to their aid. The tide of the battle turned immediately. The new soldiers, clearly more skilled than their Kashi counterparts, charged at the lions viciously. Sati killed the lioness in front of her and turned to see numerous lion carcasses around her. She perceived a movement to her left. The liger had sprung high at her. From nowhere, a massive hooded figure emerged. He caught hold of the liger and flung the animal off. The liger's claws struck at the hooded figure, tearing deep through his shoulder. As the liger regained balance and swung to face this new threat, the hooded figure stood protectively in front of Sati, his sword drawn. Sati looked at the back of her fearless protector.
Who is this man?
The hooded figure charged at the liger. Just then another lioness charged at Sati. She bent low and struck her sword up brutally through the lioness's chest, deep into the beast's heart. The lioness fell on Sati, dead. She tried to push the lioness off, her head turned to the right. She could see the hooded figure battling the gargantuan liger on his own. Then she screamed,
Watch out!
Another lioness charged from the right towards the hooded figure, grabbing his leg viciously. The hooded figure fell, but not before stabbing deep through the eyes of the lioness, mauling his leg. The liger jumped once again on the hooded figure.
No!
Screamed Sati, desperately trying to push the lioness off her. Then she saw various soldiers rushing at the liger, swinging their swords at the same time. The liger, overwhelmed, turned and ran. Only 3 of the pride of 30 beasts were able to escape. The rest lay on the village grounds, dead. Along with them were the bodies of 10 brave Kashi soldiers. A soldier came to assist Sati, pushing the lioness's carcass off her. She immediately got up and ran towards the hooded figure, who was being helped to his feet. Then she stopped, stunned. The hooded figure's mask had slipped off.
Naga!
The Naga's forehead was ridiculously broad. His eyes placed on the side, almost facing different directions. His nose was abnormally long, stretching out like the trunk of an elephant. 2 buck teeth struck out of the mouth, one of them broken, the legacy of an old injury perhaps. The ears were floppy and large, shaking of their own accord. It almost seemed like the head of an elephant had been placed on the body of this unfortunate soul. The Naga was standing with his fists clenched tight, fingers boring into his palms. He had dreamt of this moment for ages. Emotions were raging through his soul. Anger, betrayal, fear, love.
Ugly, aren't I?
Whispered the Naga, his eyes wet, teeth gritted.
What? No!
Cried Sati, controlling her shock at seeing a Naga. How could she insult the man who had saved her life?
I'm sorry. It's just that
Is that why you abandoned me?
Whispered the Naga, ignoring what Sati had said. His body was shaking, his fists clenched tight.
What?
Is that why you abandoned me?
Soft tears were rolling down the Naga's cheeks.
Because you couldn't even bear to look at me.
Sati stared at the Naga, confused.
Who are you?
Stop playing innocent, you daddy's spoiled little girl.
Shrieked a strong feminine voice from behind. Sati turned and gasped. Standing a little to her left was the Naga queen. Her entire torso had an exoskeleton covering her, hard as a bone. There were small balls of bone which ran from her shoulders down to her stomach, almost like a garland of skulls. On top of her shoulders were 2 small extra appendages, serving as a 3rd and 4th arm. One was holding a knife, clearly itching to fling it at Sati. But it was the face that disturbed Sati the most. The color was jet black, but the Naga queen's face was almost an exact replica of Sati's.
Who are you people?
Asked a stunned Sati.
Let me put this phony out of her misery, my child.
The Naga Queen's hand holding the knife was shaking.
She will never acknowledge the truth. She is just like her treacherous father.
No, Mausi.
Sati turned to the Naga again, before returning her gaze to the Naga Queen.
Who are you? Bullshit! You expect me to believe that you don't know?
Sati continued to stare at the Naga Queen, confused.
Mausi.
Whispered the Naga. He was on his knees, crying desperately.
My child?
Cried the Naga Queen as she sprinted towards him. She tried to hand him a knife.
Kill her! Kill her! That is the only way to find peace.
The Naga was trembling, shaking his head, tears streaking down his face. Vishwadhyumna and the Brangas were holding the Kashi soldiers at a distance. Sati asked once again,
Who are you people? I have had enough of this.
Screamed the Naga Queen, raising her knife.
No, Mausi.
Whispered the Naga through his tears.
She doesn't know. She doesn't know.
Sati stared at the Naga Queen.
I swear I don't know. Who are you?
The Naga Queen shut her eyes, took a deep breath, and spoke with all the sarcasm at her command.
Then listen, O exalted princess. I am your twin sister Kali, the one whom your two-faced father abandoned.
Sati stared at Kali, mouth half open, too shocked to react.
I have a sister, and this sad soul,
said Kali, pointing at the Lord of the People,
is the son you abandoned, Ganesh.
Sati gasped in shock.
My son is alive?
She stared at Ganesh.
My son?
Angry tears were flooding down Ganesh's face. His body was shaking with misery.
My son?
Sati's heart was crying in pain.
But my father said my son was stillborn.
She continued to stare.
I was lied to.
Sati held her breath. She stared at her twin sister. An exact replica of her. A visible proof of their relationship. She turned to Ganesh.
My son is alive?
Ganesh looked up, tears still rolling down his eyes.
My son is alive,
whispered Sati, tears spilling from her eyes. Sati stumbled towards the kneeling Ganesh. She went down on her knees, holding his face.
My son is alive.
She cradled his head.
I didn't know, my child. I swear I didn't know.
Ganesh didn't raise his arms.
My child,
whispered Sati, pulling Ganesh's head down, kissing his forehead, holding him tight.
I'll never let you go. Never.
Ganesh's tears broke out in a stronger flood. He wrapped his arms around his mother and whispered that most magical of words.
Ma!
Sati started crying again.
My son! My son!
Ganesh cried like the sheltered little child he had always wanted to be. He was safe, safe at last, safe in his loving mother's arms. Parshuram was biding time. The water holes of the Branga ship had been destroyed when it grounded. The Suryavanshis had no choice but to drink the Madhumati water. Devadas had insisted the water be boiled first. But Parshuram knew that people drinking Madhumati water for the first time would be knocked out for a few hours if they didn't have the antidote beforehand. He waited patiently for the water to take effect. He had a task to carry out. As the camp slept, Parshuram set to work. He found the weak link in his chain and banged it lightly with a stone till it broke. His lieutenant next to him expected to be set free, but Parshuram hammered the chain back into the stake.
Nobody escapes. Is that clear? Anyone who dares to will be hunted down by me.
The lieutenant frowned, thoroughly confused. but did not dare question his fearsome chieftain. Parshuram turned towards the kitchen area of the beach. His battle axe gleamed in the moonlight. He knew what he had to do. It had to be done. He had no choice. Chapter 16. Opposites Attract. The fire was raging. Shiva had never seen flames so high near the Mansarovar lake. The howling winds, the open space, the might of the Gunas, his tribe, simply didn't allow any fire to last too long. He looked around. His village was deserted, not a soul in sight. The flames were licking at the walls of his hamlet. He turned towards the lake.
Holy lake, where are my people? Have the Prakritis taken them hostage? Shiva, help me!
Shiva turned around to find a bloodied Brihaspati racing out of the village gates through the massive inferno. He was being followed by a giant hooded figure, his sword drawn, his gait menacing in its extreme control. Shiva pulled Brihaspati behind him, drew his sword, and waited for the hooded Naga to come closer. When within shouting distance, Shiva screamed,
"You will never get him, not as long as I live."
The Naga's mask seemed to develop a life of its own. It smirked.
I've already got him.
Shiva spun around. There were 3 massive snakes behind him. One was dragging Brihaspati's limp body away, punctured by numerous massive bites. The other 2 stood guard, spewing fire from their mouths, preventing Shiva from moving closer. Shiva watched in helpless rage as they dragged Brihaspati towards the Naga. A furious Shiva turned towards the Naga.
"Lord Rudra, be merciful,"
whispered Shiva. A severely bleeding Drapaku was kneeling next to the Naga, defeated, forlorn, waiting to be killed. Next to Drapaku, down on her knees, was a woman. Streaks of blood ran down her arms. Her billowing hair covered her downcast face. And then the wind cleared. She looked up. It was her. The woman he couldn't save. The woman he hadn't saved. The woman he hadn't even attempted to save.
"Help! Please, help me!"
"Don't you dare!" screamed Shiva, pointing menacingly at the Naga. The Naga calmly raised his sword, and without a second's hesitation, beheaded the woman. Shiva woke up in a cold sweat, his brow burning again. He looked around the darkness of his small tent, hearing the soft sounds of the Madhumati lapping the shores. He looked at his hand. The serpent Om bracelet was in it. He cursed out loud, threw the bracelet onto the ground, and lay back on the bed. His head felt heavy, very heavy. The Madhumati flowed quietly that night. Parshuram looked up. The moonlight gave just enough visibility for him to do his task. He checked the temperature on the flat griddle, heating up on the small fire. Scalding. It had to be. The flesh would have to be seared shut quickly. Otherwise the bleeding would not stop. He went back to sharpening the axe. He tested the sharpness of the blade once again. Razor sharp. It would afford a clean strike. He looked back. There was nobody there. He threw away his cloak and took a deep breath.
Lord Rudra, give me strength.
He curled up his left hand, the sinning hand that had dared to murder the Nilkant's favorite. He held the outcrop of a tree stump, held it tight, giving himself purchase to pull his shoulder back. The trunk had been used earlier to behead many of his enemies. The blood of those unfortunate victims had left deep red marks on the wood. Now, his blood would mix with theirs. He reached out with his right hand and picked up the battle axe, raising it high. Parshuram looked up one last time and took a deep breath.
Forgive me, my lord.
The battle axe hummed through the air as it swung down sharply. It sliced through perfectly, cutting the hand clean.
How in the name of the holy lake did he escape?
Shouted Shiva.
What were you doing?
Parvateshwar and Bhagirath were looking down. The Lord had justifiable reasons to be angry. They were in his tent. It was the last hour of the first prahar. The sun had just risen, and with that had come to light Parshuram's disappearance. Shiva was distracted by commotion outside. He rushed out to find Devadas and a few other soldiers pointing their sword at Parshuram. He was staggering towards Shiva, staring at him. Nobody else. Shiva held his left hand out, telling his men to let Parshuram through. For some reason, he didn't feel the need to reach for his sword. Parshuram had his cloak wrapped tightly around himself. Bhagirath stepped up to check Parshuram for weapons, but Shiva called out loudly,
It's all right, Bhagirath. Let him come.
Parshuram stumbled towards Shiva, obviously weak, eyes drooping. There was a massive blood stain on his cloak. Shiva narrowed his eyes. Parshuram collapsed on his knees in front of Shiva.
Where had you gone?
Parshuram looked up, his eyes melancholic.
Penance, my lord.
Shiva frowned. The bandit dropped his cloak and with his right hand placed his severed left one at Shiva's feet.
This hand sinned, my lord. Forgive me.
Shiva gasped in horror. Parshuram collapsed, unconscious. Ayurvati had tended to Parshuram's wound. She had cauterized it once again in order to prevent any chance of infection. Juice of neem leaves had been rubbed into the open flesh. A dressing of neem leaves had been created and wound tight around the severed arm. She looked up at Shiva.
This fool is lucky the axe was sharp and clean. The blood loss and infection from a wound like this can be fatal.
I don't think the cleanliness or sharpness was an accident,
whispered Bhagirath.
He made it so. He knew what he was doing.
Parvateshwar continued to stare at Parshuram, stunned.
Who is this strange man?
Shiva had not uttered a word so far. He just kept looking at Parshuram, his face devoid of any expression, his eyes narrowed hard.
What do we do with him, my lord?
Asked Parvateshwar.
We use him,
suggested Bhagirath.
Our ship will take up to 6 months to repair. We can't stay here for that long. I say, we carry Parshuram in one of our cutters to the closest Branga outpost and hand him over. We'll use the leverage of handing over the most wanted criminal in Branga to wrangle a ship from them. They'll force the medicine out of him, and we get our part to the Nagas.
Shiva didn't say anything. He continued to stare at Parshuram. Parvateshwar didn't like Bhagirath's solution, but he also knew it was the most practical thing to do. He looked at Shiva.
My lord?
We are not handing him over to the Brangas,
said Shiva.
My lord!
Cried Bhagirath, shocked. Shiva looked at Bhagirath.
We are not.
But, my lord, how do we get to the Nagas? We have sworn to get the medicines to the Brangas.
Parshuram will give us the medicines. I'll ask him when he's conscious.
But, my lord,
continued Bhagirath,
he is a criminal. He will not help unless he's coerced. I admit he has made a sacrifice, but we need a ship to get out of here.
I know.
Bhagirath continued to stare at Shiva. Then he turned towards Parvateshwar. The Meluhan general gestured to the Ayodhya prince to be quiet, but Bhagirath would have none of it. What the Nilkant was suggesting was not practical.
Please forgive me for saying it again, my lord, but the only practical way to get a ship is by letting the Brangas get their hands on him. And that's not the only reason to do so. Parshuram is a criminal, a mass murderer. Why shouldn't we surrender him to suffer the righteous Branga justice?
Because I said so.
Saying this, Shiva walked out. Bhagirath kept staring at Parvateshwar, not saying a word. Parshuram's eyes opened slightly. He smiled faintly and then went back to sleep. As the second prahar came to a close, the sun shone brightly right overhead. The Branga and Kashi soldiers had been hard at work, with Vishwadyumna having taken charge. Kavas didn't seem to mind following orders from the capable Branga. The Branga traveling doctor had tended to all the wounded. They were all on the road to recovery. The dead had been cremated in the Ichhavar village ground. While nobody expected the few remaining lionesses and the liger to return back to the village, for abundant precaution the soldiers had dug ditches around the village. Temporary quarters had been erected for both Branga as well as Kashi soldiers in the school building. The villagers had been commandeered to arrange the food supplies. The villagers, though rejoicing at the decimation of the pride, stayed warily at a distance, carrying out the tasks assigned to them by Vishwadyumna. Their mortal fear of the Nagas, despite the fact that their lives had just been saved by them, kept them suppressed. The cleaners' children, however, seemed to delight in playing with Kali. They pulled her hair, jumped on her, and laughed uproariously every time she pretended to get angry.
"Children,"
spoke their mother sternly. They turned and ran towards her, holding on to her dhoti. The cleaner's wife spoke to Kali.
"My apologies for this, Your Highness. They will not disturb you."
In the presence of an adult, Kali's demeanor became serious once again. She merely nodded wordlessly. She turned to her right to find Ganesh sleeping with his head on Sati's lap, his face a picture of bliss. His wounds had been dressed. The doctor was especially worried about the mutilation caused by the lioness on Ganesh's leg. It had been cleaned and bandaged tight. Sati looked up at Kali and smiled. She held her sister's hand. Kali smiled softly.
"I have never seen him sleep so peacefully."
Sati smiled and lovingly ran her hand along Ganesh's face.
"I must thank you for taking care of him for so long. It was my duty." "Yes, but not everyone honors their duty. Thank you. Actually, it was my pleasure as well."
Sati smiled.
"I can't imagine how tough life must have been for you. I will make it up to you, I promise."
Kali frowned slightly, but kept quiet. Sati looked up once again as a thought struck her.
"You had said something about father. Are you sure? He's weak, but he loves his family dearly. I can't imagine him consciously hurting any of us."
Kali's face hardened. Suddenly they were disturbed by a noise from Ganesh. Sati looked down at her son. Ganesh was pouting.
"I'm hungry."
Sati raised her eyebrows and burst out laughing. She kissed Ganesh gently on his forehead.
"Let me see what I can rustle up."
As Sati walked away, Kali turned to Ganesh, about to scold him for his behavior. But Ganesh himself was up in a flash.
"You will not tell her, Mausi."
"What?"
asked Kali.
"You will not tell her."
"She's not stupid, you know. She will figure it out."
"That she may, but she will not find out from you."
"She deserves the truth. Why shouldn't she know?"
"Because some truths can only cause pain, Mausi. They are best left buried." "My lord,"
whispered Parshuram. Shiva, Parvateshwar and Bhagirath were huddled together around him in the tiny tent. It was the last hour of the third prahar. The sun was sinking into the horizon, turning the sludgy Madhumati waters orange-brown. Devadas and his team had already started working on repairing the ship. It was a daunting task.
"What is it, Parshuram?"
asked Shiva.
"Why did you want to meet me?"
Parshuram closed his eyes, gathering strength.
I will have one of my people give the secrets of the Naga medicine to the Brangas, my lord. We will help them. We will take them to Mount Mahendra in Kaling, from where we can get the stabilizing agent for the medicine.
Shiva smiled.
"Thank you."
You don't need to thank me, my lord. This is what you want. Doing your bidding is my honor.
Shiva nodded.
You also need a ship,
said Parshuram. Bhagirath perked up.
I have a large ship of my own,
said Parshuram before turning to Parvateshwar.
Give me some of your men, brave general. I will tell them where it is. They can sail it here, and we can leave.
A surprised Parvateshwar smiled, looking at Shiva. Shiva nodded. The bandit looked tired. Shiva bent down, touching Parshuram on his shoulder. You need to rest. We can talk later.
One more thing, my lord,
said Parshuram, insistent.
The Brangas are only a conduit.
Shiva frowned.
Your ultimate goal is to find the Nagas.
Shiva narrowed his eyes.
I know where they live,
said Parshuram. Shiva's eyes widened in surprise.
I know my way through the Dandak forest, my lord,
continued Parshuram.
I know where the Naga city is. I will tell you how to get there.
Shiva patted Parshuram's shoulder. Thank you.
But I have one condition, my lord.
Shiva frowned.
Take me with you,
whispered Parshuram. Shiva raised his eyebrows, surprised. But why?
Following you is my life's duty. Please let me give my wretched life at least a little bit of meaning.
Shiva nodded. It will be my honor to travel with you, Parshuram. It had been 3 days since the Battle of Madhumati. Parvateshwar's men had located Parshuram's ship. It was even bigger than the one they had travelled in. Clearly a Branga ship. It even had hull extensions to allow passage through the gates of Branga. The ship must have been captured by Parshuram's men from one of the unfortunate Branga Kshatriya bands sent to arrest or kill him. All the soldiers had boarded the ship. Parshuram's men were not prisoners anymore. They had been allotted comfortable quarters of the same order as the Suryavanshi soldiers who had beaten them. Shiva had personally seen to the comfort of both Purvaka and Parshuram. Ayurvati had stationed her assistant Mastrak alongside Parshuram, who was still extremely weak from tremendous blood loss. The ship was sailing comfortably up the Madhumati. When they would reach the Branga river, a fast cutter with one of Parshuram's men would be sent to guide King Chandraketu in finding the alternative source of the Naga medicine. The man would also inform the rest of Shiva's men at Brangaridhe to leave immediately and rejoin the brigade at the point where the Madhumati broke away from the Branga. The brigade would then sail back to Kashi. Shiva was desperate to meet Sati and Kartik. He had been missing his family. After that, he planned to raise an army and quickly turn south to find the Nagas. Shiva was standing at the head of the ship, smoking some marijuana with Veerbhadra. Nandi stood next to them. They stared into the swirling waters of the Madhumati.
This expedition went better than expected, my lord,
said Nandi. That it did, smiled Shiva, pointing at the chillam. Unfortunately, the celebration isn't quite up to the mark. Veerbhadra smiled. Let me get to Kashi. They really know how to roll good grass there. Shiva laughed aloud. So did Nandi. Shiva offered the chillam to Nandi, but the Meluhan major declined. Shiva shrugged and took another drag, before passing the chillam back to Veerbhadra. Shiva was distracted, as he saw Parvateshwar come up to them, hesitate, and turn back. I wonder what he wants to talk about now, asked Shiva, frowning. It's obvious, isn't it? Smiled Veerbhadra. Nandi looked down and smiled, not saying a word. Why don't you two idiots excuse me for a minute? Smiled Shiva, as he walked away from his friends. Parvateshwar was standing at a distance, deep in thought. General? A word, General? Parvateshwar immediately turned around and saluted.
Your command, my lord.
Not a command, Parvateshwar. Just a request. Parvateshwar frowned. In the name of the holy lake, said Shiva. For once, listen to your heart.
My lord?
You know what I'm saying. She loves you. You love her. What else is there to think about? Parvateshwar turned beet red.
Has it been that obvious?
Obvious to everyone, General.
But my lord, this is wrong.
How? Why? You think Lord Ram purposely designed laws for you to be unhappy?
But my grandfather's vow.
You have honored it for long enough. Trust me, even he would want you to stop now. Parvateshwar looked down, not saying anything. I remember hearing that one of Lord Ram's commandments was that laws are not important. What is important is justice. If the purpose of justice is served by breaking a law, then break it.
Lord Ram said that?
Asked Parvateshwar, surprised. I'm sure he must have, smiled Shiva. He never wanted his followers to be unhappy. You're not hurting anyone else by being with Anandmai. You're not hurting the protest begun by your grandfather. You have served that purpose quite enough. Now let your heart serve another purpose.
Are you sure, my lord?
I have never been surer of anything else in my life. In the name of Lord Ram, go to her! Shiva slapped Parvateshwar hard on his back. Parvateshwar had been thinking about this for long. Shiva's words only helped him gather his dwindling courage. He saluted Shiva and turned, a man on a mission, ready to take the plunge. Anandmai was leaning against the railing astern of the ship, enjoying the strong evening breeze.
Your Highness?
Anandmai spun around, surprised to find Parvateshwar there, looking sheepish. The Princess of Ayodhya was about to open her mouth when he corrected himself.
I meant, Anandmai,
whispered Parvateshwar. Anandmai stood up in surprise.
Yes, General? You wanted something?
Asked Anandmai, her heart racing.
Anandmai, I was thinking,
Yes?
Well, it's like this. It's about what we were talking about.
Anandmai was aglow, smiling from deep within her heart.
Yes, General.
I never thought I would face this day, so,
Anandmai nodded, keeping quiet, letting him take his time. She could figure out exactly what Parvateshwar wanted to say, but she also knew it would be very difficult for the Meluhan general.
My vows and Suryavanshi laws have been the bedrock of my life,
said Parvateshwar.
Unquestionable and unchanging. My destiny, the destination of my life and my role in it, has so far been clearly defined. This predictability is comforting. Rather, had been comforting for many decades.
Anandmai nodded, silent.
But,
said Parvateshwar,
the last few years have turned my world upside down. First came the Lord, a living man that I could look up to, a person beyond the laws. I thought this would be the biggest change my simple heart had been forced to handle.
Anandmai continued to nod, trying her best to not frown or laugh, touched to see this proud man bearing his heart in what she thought was one of the most wooden attempts at courtship in history. But she was wise enough to know that her Parva had to say his piece, or he would never be comfortable with himself or in the life she hoped he was choosing to make with her.
But then, most unexpectedly, I also found a woman that I could look up to, could admire and adore. I have reached a crossroads in my life where my destination is a blur. I do not know where my life is going. The road ahead of me is unclear. But to my surprise, I find that I am happy with that. Happy as long as you walk this road with me.
Anandmai remained silent, smiling, tears in her eyes. He had really pulled it together at the end.
It'll be one hell of a great journey.
Anandmai lunged forward and kissed Parvateshwar hard, a deep, passionate kiss. Parvateshwar stood stunned, his hands to his side, taking in a pleasure he hadn't ever imagined. After what seemed like a lifetime, Anandmai stepped back, her eyes a seductive half-stare. Parvateshwar staggered, his mouth half open, not even sure how to react.
Lord Ram, be merciful,
the general whispered.
Anandmayi stepped closer to Parvateshwar, running her hand across his face.
You have no idea what you have been missing.
Parvateshwar just continued to stare at her, dumbfounded. Anandmayi held Parvateshwar's hand and pulled him away.
Come with me.
It had been a week since the battle with the liger. A few surviving lionesses and the liger had not come back. They were still licking their wounds. The villagers of Ichhavar were using the moments of peace to start tilling their lands, preparing for the seasonal crops. It was a time of unexpected joy and relief. The Chandravanshi soldiers were recovering. Ganesh's wounds were too deep. He still limped from the severe mauling his leg had taken. But he knew it was only a matter of time before he would be all right. He had to start preparing for the inevitable.
Ma?
Whispered Ganesh. Sati looked at Ganesh, covering the dish she was cooking with a plate. She had spent the previous week listening to Kali share stories of Ganesh's childhood, sharing in his joys and sorrows, understanding her child's personality and character, right down to his favorite dishes. And she was satiating his stomach and soul with what she had learnt.
What is it, my son?
Kali had just stepped up close as requested by Ganesh.
I think we have to start preparing to leave. I should be strong enough to travel in another week.
I know. The food I've been giving you has some rejuvenating herbs. They're giving you strength.
Ganesh knelt and held his mother's hand.
I know.
Sati patted her son's face lightly. Ganesh took a deep breath.
I know you cannot come to Panchavati. It will pollute you. I will come to visit you regularly in Kashi. I will come in secret.
What are you talking about?
I have also sworn the Kashi soldiers to an oath of silence on pain of a gruesome death.
Grinned Ganesh.
They are terrified of us Nagas. They will not dare break this oath. The secret of my relationship with you will not be revealed.
Ganesh, what in Lord Ram's name are you talking about?
I will not embarrass you. Your acceptance of me is enough for my soul.
How can you embarrass me? You're my pride and joy.
Ma,
smiled Ganesh. Sati held her son's face.
You're not going anywhere.
Ganesh frowned.
You are staying with me.
Ma,
said Ganesh, horrified.
What?
How can I? What will your society say?
I don't care.
But your husband.
He is your father,
said Sati firmly.
Speak of him with respect.
I meant no disrespect, Ma. But he will not accept me. You know that. I'm a Naga.
You are my son. You're his son. He will accept you. You don't know the size of your father's heart. The entire world can live in it. But, Sati,
said Kali, trying to intervene.
No arguments, Kali,
said Sati.
Both of you are coming to Kashi. We will travel when you're strong enough to do so.
Kali stared at Sati, at a loss for words.
You are my sister. I don't care for what society says. If they accept me, they will accept you. If they reject you, I will leave this society too.
Kali smiled slightly, teary-eyed.
I was very wrong about you, Didi.
It was the first time Kali had called Sati her elder sister. Sati smiled and embraced Kali. Chapter 17. The Curse of Honor. It had been 10 days since the Battle of the Madhumati. The ship carrying the now reconciled enemies, the Suryavanshis and Parshuram's men, was anchored where the Madhumati broke off from the Branga. They were waiting for their comrades to sail upriver from Brangarite and join them. A Branga Pandit had been called aboard to preside over Parvateshwar and Anandmayi's wedding. Bhagirath desired to conduct the ceremony at Ayodhya with regal pomp and grandeur befitting a princess. But Anandmayi would have none of it. She did not want to take any chances. Parvateshwar had taken his own sweet time to say yes, and she wanted to have their relationship iron tight as soon as humanly possible. As Shiva had blessed the couple, all arguments about the hastiness of the ceremony had come to an end. Shiva was standing at the ship railing, smoking with Veerbhadra.
My lord?
Shiva turned around. "By the holy lake, what are you doing, Parshuram?" asked a horrified Shiva. "You should be resting."
I'm bored, my lord.
"But you were up for a long time yesterday for the wedding. 2 days of continuous activity will be a bit too much. What does Ayurvati have to say?"
I will go back in a little while, my lord.
said Parshuram.
Let me stand next to you for some time. It soothes me.
Shiva raised an eyebrow. "I'm not special. It's all in your mind."
I disagree, my lord. But even if what you're saying is true, I'm sure you will find it in your heart to let me indulge my mind if it doesn't hurt anyone.
Shiva burst out laughing. "You're quite good with your words for a—" Shiva suddenly stopped.
For a bandit?